Conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good morning. The government risks a north-south divide as it considers charging southerners more for electricity.
Downing Street prepared to host the International Energy Summit, gathering together world leaders in London.
But could a postcode pricing have disastrous consequences for our economy?
Donald Trump lashes out at Volodymyr Zelensky as he says Ukraine must cede territory or risk a never-ending war.
I think we have a deal with Russia. We have to get a deal with Zelensky, and I hope that Zelensky, I thought it might be easier to deal with Zelensky. So far, it's been harder.
Pope Francis lies in state in St. Peter's Basilica as preparations get underway for his funeral. Ellie Costello is live in Rome for us.
I'm live in Rome, where the doors of St. Peter's Basilica have just opened in the past few moments. Tourists and pilgrims are now flooding inside to pay their last respects to the late Pope Francis, who's now lying in state.
In commemoration of the 80th anniversary of VE Day, Royal Mail released a very special set of stamps.
The Lib Dems are backing a music ban on public transport. We're debating whether playing songs and podcasts without your headphones in is a faux pas.
And in sport this morning, well, Arsenal's draw with Crystal Palace last night means that Liverpool now need just a point at home to Spurs on Sunday, I ain't saying anything, to win their 20th league title. Now, for a man who hasn't played for 4 months, Ronnie O'Sullivan's done quite well, cruised into the next round of the Snooker World Championship. And could a woman break the 4-minute mile? We'll discuss.
Hello there, good morning. A mostly dry day ahead, but cloudy at times with some heavy outbreaks of rain later. Stay tuned and I'll have all the details.
It's just gone 6 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Nana Aquia, and this is GB News Breakfast.
You know all the trouble you get on the trains? Whatever time of year it is, snow on the tracks, leaves on the line,
Yes, I know
all that sort of thing. You know, in the summer there's trouble because everything buckles.
It's always something.
Yeah, well, they've come up with a plan now. They're painting the rails white.
What, to stop the reflection of the light?
So it doesn't get as hot.
That's probably quite an expensive job.
But I guess you'd think so, wouldn't you? Thousands upon thousands of litres of white paint are going to be painted onto our train tracks.
I don't know. I feel that there's something not quite right about that.
You've got to be pretty quick while you're doing it, though.
Exactly.
You have to be pretty quick.
Well, there we go, another one.
How long is it going to take before it just gets brushed off by the trains?
Oh, it's special paint, I imagine.
You're like the fourth bridge, you have to never stop.
That's
You're doing it constantly.
It will continue, yeah.
It's a contract that somebody's cleverly managed to negotiate, realising that they'll be in work forever. I wish I'd thought of that. I could have employed a load of painters and decorators.
Work, no. You don't want to be running in front of a train doing it.
No, unless they shut all the tracks down.
Of course they will.
Yes, that's what
That'll be engineering.
Yeah.
Work.
Yeah, we're going to shut down all the tracks for at least 6 months, and because the lines are going to be painted. But you mentioned in the headlines there about music being played on trains.
Yes.
Does that drive you crazy?
It
used to be, when you used to have Walkmans back in the day, it would always...
the tin
now all the
sound.
in-ear stuff, you can't hear it, and now people just... drives me crazy.
I hate it.
That will just watch it.
With no headphones. I don't really use trains and things, so I don't...
You're lucky.
I don't.
I use trains. I don't use the rest of the money because I don't live anywhere where I need to get a bus or anything. But I tell you what, it actually really sticks in my craw when people think they do that. I want to hold it up and go, it's supposed to be past now.
But it's not that. It's not they got them in the ear. They're actually just playing it from their phones. They'll be watching videos
I
and stuff
hate
like
that.
Just like that, but really, really loud.
It's a bit... Well, I have seen people walking down the street and they've got something... And they try to hit... Have you seen them? They do this with their phone.
Yeah.
And it's just like, there's a speaker in that end of the phone if you do that. Why do they do that?
Because their headphones aren't working, or maybe they've lost them.
Just do that, like a normal person.
I've done that.
Well, you've done that?
Yeah. I don't know where it's coming from.
I think they need to...
Why would you do that?
I don't know where it's... I'm trying to listen to where it's coming from.
That's where the speaker is, though.
Is it there?
We've all done it.
Yeah.
On an iPhone? I thought it was there.
No, that's where you...
you mean it's in the wrong place and you should actually be doing it?
Why would you... It only comes out that way if you've got it on speaker mode and you do that.
Where's Raymond Baxter when you need him? He'd tell us what to do.
Anyway, I think it's rude listening to your thing out loud on public transport.
I think it's rude holding your phone like that the wrong way up. I mean, what's wrong with you people? Nana, Paul.
Sorry.
Anyway, right, let's get on to our top story this morning. The Energy Secretary, Ed Miliband, reportedly set to back a controversial shake-up of electricity pricing. They're calling it a postcode lottery energy system.
Yes, and under the zonal pricing plan, energy would be split into regions with bills based on supply and demand.
So that would see cheaper bills in wind-rich areas like Scotland, higher costs for those in the south.
Later this morning, Ed Miliband is delivering a speech on the future of energy security as part of an international summit at Lancaster House.
But should your energy bill really depend on where you live? Let's talk to journalist and broadcaster Christo Foufas, who's here. Good morning.
Morning.
There's a lot of sour faces about this in the newsroom this morning, I noticed, but that's because we're down south.
Do you know, sometimes I just think we must wonder, some people must look at this and think, how did we end up with Ed Miliband in charge of our energy security across the nation? Because it's just another, in my humble opinion, harebrained idea. It doesn't seem to make any sense. And a lot of companies and a lot of people who actually produce these renewables are saying the same thing, because you're quite right. Not only does it penalise those people who've ended up by virtue living in the south, living in areas where it would be considered more expensive, but also these areas that have that greater demand, which is what's going to determine why this pricing is higher, they're the places that need more renewables. They're the places that need these wind farms to be built. Well, of course, if the energy costs more in those places, well, then what incentive is there for any of these companies to go to these places and say, great, we're going to invest in creating all of these renewables? So it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. Also, when it comes to the demand, I think you're going to see a lot of big cities, of course, be places where you get those higher levels of demand. Well, if bigger cities have much more expensive bills, especially those in the south, well, who's going to suffer? Well, the poorest that live in those cities. So, again, like VAT on school fees, like many of these other policies that they say that they're going to try and help people by getting more money from those more affluent people, actually, I think we're going to see the poorest suffer most.
Yeah, but, OK, so he's had quite a few harebrained schemes. I mean, £22 billion carbon capture. He was going to carpet the land with solar panels, which people are saying to him now that if the solar panels are coming from China...
That might be slightly over-egging.
No,
I think he was going to carpet the land.
There was pretty much a map on the papers, in the newspapers, where he was planning to put them. But, of course, then somebody pointed out that all the solar panels are coming from China, and how is that energy efficient? It was actually on Nick Ferrara's show. I was actually listening to him having that interview with him.
And let's not forget as well that many of the renewables and the solar panels and all of these things, they come from places that have horrific slave labour as well.
Well, exactly. Now, that's that may scupper his plan, but he wasn't bothered about it initially.
No, and I think that I think harebrained is absolutely the way to describe it. I mean, some places, I think Octopus and a few other energy companies are saying, actually, look, this is a good idea, but I'm sceptical. I kind of think, where are their headquarters? Are they in one of those areas? I don't know where Octopus's headquarters are.
Except there's an argument to say, isn't there, that all this levelling up stuff, which we say, oh, yeah, we should be levelling up, we should be making the north more equitable and all the rest of it. Well, this is a way of doing it, isn't it?
In what way?
Because if it's cheaper, if power is cheaper up north, it's going to encourage more people, more companies to move up north, at which point demand goes up, the prices start to level out.
That's not really why they're doing it, though. It's because...
It might not be why... But it might not be why they're doing it, but that's one of the positives of this. And what you've got to be very careful of is, whereas people down here saying, oh, this is all crazy and harebrained, anyone north of Watford's going to be saying, great, what a fantastic idea. Our energy's going to get cheaper.
Well, again, I mean, I think that you're quite right that it looks like it's going to be in the south, but also it's going to be priced based on demand. So you might have big cities in the north also not seeing any reduction, seeing some of their bills being more expensive. It depends on what the demand is around those cities. So perhaps you will have some people in the north that are in an area of low demand that end up with lower bills, but you might have places in the north which are nearer to some of these big cities that actually are not going to see a reduction in bills, so you're going to have people who earn less who have higher bills.
Won't it end the payment to wind companies for not turning the turbines?
Now, that's one of the advantages. That is one of the advantages, because, of course, when you actually gauge, when you sort of tie into the demand how this is coordinated, then you're going to end up in a situation, hopefully, where the huge amounts of money that are paid to not produce renewables, you won't need that anymore. So that is, the people who are in favour of their scheme are saying, look, that's one of the reasons why it's a good idea. I think the devil will be in the detail, but I think the idea that there isn't a price for energy across the UK, a lot of people are going to be saying that's deeply unfair.
Yeah, I think it's deeply unfair.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. I don't think it's fair.
It's ridiculous.
I don't think it's fair at all. But my big worry is, like so many of the other schemes that this government has come up with, that it's going to be the poorest that will suffer. It's sort of, look, you live somewhere that's a bit more affluent, we'll get you, but actually, in the fallout of it, it's going to be the poorest. It's the poorest school children that are suffering of the VAT on schools. It's the poorest pensioners that are suffering because of the winter fuel allowance going. So I think that there isn't logic sometimes in what they plan. You look very sceptical about what I'm saying.
Yes, I am very sceptical about what you're saying,
no,
Chris. But
I hear you.
Or is that your normal sort of resting face?
No. It's because you're here, Christo, and I'm very sceptical of what you're saying. All right, let us know what you think on the issue of the... Well, of course you two agree.
Why?
Because you're both very, very right-wing, aren't you?
No, it's just called common sense and obvious logic. What are you?
Yes.
A lefty liberal?
No, I'm not a lefty liberal. I'm not a lefty liberal at all.
You're sounding like Keir Starmer now, right-wing, throwing it around, right, left and centre.
But what I am is a northerner. And I look at this and go, actually, there's going to be a lot of people I know, and very poor people, who are going to benefit from this.
So
and that's where my loyalties
lie.
Well,
I'm a northerner as well, but I see this as a deeply unfair, ridiculous scheme that he may be rowing back on quite quickly.
And we don't know for sure whether those areas in the north that have high demand, whether they're going to see anything cheaper. So all of those poorer northern people you're talking about, they might end up with higher bills.
All right, listen.
Not if you live in a village.
All right, Chris, we'll see you back at 7.
On the issue of proposed changes to the energy sector, a spokesperson for the Department of Energy Security and Net Zero said, in an unstable world, the only way to guarantee our energy security and protect consumers from future energy price shocks is by moving towards homegrown power. We're considering reforms to Britain's electricity market arrangements, ensuring that these focus on protecting bill payers and encouraging investment. We will provide an update in due course.
Well, good morning. If you just tuned in, it's just coming up to 13 minutes after 6 o'clock. President Trump has hit out at his Ukrainian counterpart, Volodymyr Zelensky, accusing him of compromising negotiations to end the war in Ukraine.
Well, in a post on Truth Social, the president said that whilst a peace deal with Russia was very close, Ukraine's rejection of Russia's annexation of Crimea was very harmful.
Meanwhile, Chancellor Rachel Reeves is under pressure to succeed in high-stakes negotiations of her own as she pushes to secure a UK-US trade deal.
Well, let's cross stateside and speak to US political analyst Eric Ham. Morning to you, Eric. I mean, look, this is a confusing picture. The finger seemed to be being pointed at Russia just a few days ago from the White House. Now it's being pointed firmly back at Ukraine. What are we to make of it?
Well, I think we're seeing just how volatile the Trump administration can be, not only in terms of its ability to try to negotiate a peace agreement, but also when we look at the administration focusing on trade deals and working with other countries to try to mitigate the tariffs that we know have been causing so much havoc right now.
Yeah, but some people might argue as President Trump seems to be inferring, that Volodymyr Zelensky is actually quite difficult to negotiate with. And the problem with this is that Russia will continue to encroach, and the longer that he leaves this, because obviously he wants to keep all his territory, fair enough, that there will actually be nothing left of Ukraine.
Well, I think what we're seeing here is you got a president of the United States who makes clear that that he is weighted towards, one, getting a deal, but getting a deal that is certainly going to cost Ukraine so much more than it is going to cost Russia. And of course, what we're seeing here is while President Zelensky is attempting to negotiate and try to claw back as much as he can, and rightfully so, I think because the president has had so many self-inflicted wounds and now, of course, his political capital is on the line. We have to remember, this is a president who said that he would actually get a deal within 24 hours of actually getting elected. And we see that right now, Russia and Ukraine are no closer to a deal today than they were when Donald Trump was, in fact, elected. And in addition to that, even though we know that there was a ceasefire in place, again, what we continue to see is Russia acting as the aggressor. And right now, I think what you're seeing is frustration from the president. Of course, it's on Volodymyr Zelensky right now, but of course, we do know right now that this is a president who's just deeply frustrated, and I think right now he lacks the bandwidth and the team and the expertise to actually be able to move this process over the finish line over the long haul.
I mean, the interesting thing is with this is the international implications in terms of whether Zelensky walks away from this and says, I'm not doing a deal with you, whether the administration walks away from this and says we can't achieve anything, because in either of those scenarios, that leaves Europe holding the baby, doesn't it?
Well, I think Europe was always going to be doing that. But again, I think what we're seeing right now is this is a situation where we have to also recognize that the only deal that the Russian president, Vladimir Putin, is going to accept is where you have Ukraine that is completely part of Russian territory. Where does Europe stand on this? And of course, we know where the president stands on this. He's willing to allow as many concessions for Russia as he believes is necessary to actually get a deal. Right now, even though the president holds an enormous amount of cards, he's basically put it all in on Russia. And right now, Vladimir Putin certainly knows that, and that is why we continue to see him and continuing to encroach and continuing to be the aggressor in this war, even though the president continues to blame Volodymyr Zelensky for it.
Well, that's something that he did say. So he said he'd try and end the war in 24 hours, but then he said he didn't realise how difficult Volodymyr Zelensky was going to be, and that's one of the reasons. I know that we all support the idea that it's wrong to invade sovereign territory. Most people would support that notion. But there comes a point where if you want to stop the war, you may have to concede, because that's usually how land is taken through wars anyway. So is President Trump not actually right on this, that if Vladimir isn't prepared to give up some land, then the death and fighting will continue? And Europe can't pretend that they've been helpful in this, or the UK, because they've given him just enough to keep the fighting going, that's Volodymyr Zelensky, but not enough to actually win.
Well, no, I think President Trump is dead wrong, and the reason why is because we know that Vladimir Putin has basically broken every deal that he has actually agreed to, going all the way back to the annexation of Crimea. And Volodymyr Zelensky certainly knows that, which is why he's looking for stronger guarantees, and which is why I think Donald Trump is backed into a corner, because what we're seeing here is Volodymyr Zelensky is actually pushing the United States to be the guarantor, and that's just not a place where Donald Trump wants to be, which means he has to actually be an enforcer of Russia, of Vladimir Putin, and we know that's something he simply cannot do.
OK. Eric, good to see you this morning. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Now, the weather. If we are going to have to paint all the train tracks white, that would indicate the weather's going to be nice. I don't know if that's the case for today. Let's get the details with Honor.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head through today, it should be largely dry for many, but rather cloudy at times. This cloud thick enough to produce some drizzle, particularly across the southeast. The best of the brightness likely across the northwest. So quite a murky start for many, particularly across the southeast. Some drizzle, some fog at times. This will eventually clear through the morning, but some of that cloud sticking around, particularly across parts of the south. The best of any sunny breaks across western parts of Scotland, northwestern parts of England, and thicker clouds starting to push into western parts of Northern Ireland too, where we'll eventually start to see some rain. But in the sunny spells, feeling warm, highs of around 17 degrees Celsius, but always feeling that little bit chillier around eastern coasts. Then to end the day across Scotland, once again it should be a largely dry and clear end to the day. Some patchy cloud at times, particularly around Aberdeenshire, for example. Plenty of clear skies towards the west. But across Northern Ireland, starting to turn quite cloudy and murky, particularly around western coasts, where we'll eventually introduce some outbreaks of rain. Elsewhere across much of England and Wales, once again largely dry, though we can't rule out the odd shower, particularly across Wales and parts of Devon and Cornwall. And for many, it should remain largely dry as we head through the overnight period. That's away from Northern Ireland, though. More and more outbreaks of rain moving through here. Could turn quite heavy at times, particularly across southern-facing hilly areas, and quite blustery around exposed coast too. So a very wet start here across Northern Ireland, but elsewhere largely dry. Perhaps some low cloud feeding in once again around eastern coasts. So for Northern Ireland in particular, it's going to be a very wet day. Do take care if you're travelling around. It's likely we'll see poor visibility, some quite disruptive travel conditions potentially. Eventually some more rain starting to move into western parts of Scotland, perhaps later into western parts of Wales and the southwest. But for many, once again, it's going to be largely dry. Quite cloudy at times, but in the sunnier breaks, still feeling warmer, and a lot warmer around eastern coasts as well, but quite cool across Northern Ireland under all the cloud and rain.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Well, apparently, do you know what? There's apparently a heat wave on the way on Friday.
Good.
23 degrees, that's what they're saying. That's what we're calling a heat wave.
Yeah, it's better than nothing. I'm all for it. Bring it on. Bring it on, get the barbecue out.
Yeah.
Smash it. Right, at 21 minutes past 6, here's our daily reflection.
The GB News Daily Reflection.
Hi, I'm Brenda, Vicar of St Francis Parish Church in Teesside. On the day Jesus rose from the tomb, 2 disciples walked to a village called Emmaus, but don't yet believe that Jesus is risen from the dead. They saw the empty tomb and listened to the women, but are in a state of utter shock and confusion. As the disciples walk, they talk about what has happened, and a stranger asks what they are discussing. The disciples look sad and say, "Are you the only stranger in Jerusalem that does not know what has happened in these days?" Let's pause there a moment, because the stranger joining them is Jesus himself. But the disciples have been kept from recognizing him. I wonder if it's because they are so caught up in grief. Have you ever been so utterly devastated that you couldn't take things in? The stranger walks with them, and they invite him to sit and eat with them. And when Jesus takes some bread, blesses it, breaks the bread and shares it with them, suddenly they recognize Jesus. He disappears and they rush back to Jerusalem to tell everyone the good news. These disciples, in their grief, fail to recognize Jesus, yet still offer kindness. How will we treat the stranger in our midst, even in our most difficult times? The world becomes a better place when we offer kindness to the stranger. It speaks of Jesus' love for all humankind. Amen.
Oh, that's lovely.
Very
do
nice
like
indeed.
those. Yeah, I do like those.
Right, still to come. We're going to be live in Rome with Ellie to get the latest as Pope Francis lies in state.
Where the doors of St Peter's Basilica behind me have just opened, and pilgrims and tourists are now flooding in to pay their final respects to Pope Francis, who is now lying in state.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point.
He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
6:27 morning to you now. Thousands of people have been pouring into St Peter's Basilica to pay their respects to Pope Francis, whose body is now lying in state ahead of the funeral on Saturday.
The Basilica remained open past its scheduled hours yesterday to accommodate the crowds and long queues of mourners.
Well, Ellie Costello, as you know, is in Rome for us all this week. Morning, Ellie.
Morning to you, Stephen and Nana. And yes, it was the most moving and stunning sight yesterday when Pope Francis was moved into St Peter's Basilica. And since then, thousands upon thousands of pilgrims and tourists have flooded through the doors of that beautiful, magnificent basilica to capture that last final glimpse of Pope Francis, many of them bowing their head in prayer, many of them crying, and a number of them just going to say thank you, perhaps not having any faith at all, but they recognise him and admire him as a world leader and a leader of faith. And just this morning, Stephen and Nana, in the past 15 minutes, the doors of St Peter's Basilica have opened once again, and people were running down the street to the side of me here to get through to the Basilica. You can imagine the feelings of intensity that they want to be in this moment of history. And we saw similar scenes last night. At around midnight, the Basilica was meant to close. People running down this main street here into St Peter's Square. They wanted to get into the Basilica before that midnight deadline, and actually the Basilica stayed open in order to meet that demand of pilgrims and tourists from all over the world wanting to go in and pay their last respects. But it is worth bearing in mind the heat and the temperature here in Rome. Not too bad at the moment, about 14 degrees, but yesterday it was up at 22 degrees and people were waiting up to 8 hours to get into St Peter's Basilica. So this is a test of endurance, a test of faith, if you like. But of course, if you are a Catholic, people would deem it to be absolutely worth every single moment, just for those few seconds of reflection, of prayer, of thanks at Pope Francis's coffin. And just a word on Pope Francis's coffin, because you may have noticed, Stephen and Anna, that it is on ground level. It is literally lying on the ground in St Peter's Basilica, and that was a choice that he made. It's not something that we've seen before. Pontiffs that have gone before Pope Francis were put on big, elaborate platforms, and he did not want that. He wanted to be on the floor, and actually you might notice he's tilted just slightly towards the pews. He wanted to face his people. He wanted to face his flock. So even in death, these choices make him the people's pope.
OK. Ellie, we're going to catch up with you later, but for now, thank you.
Now, if you're travelling to work or school, here is your local traffic and travel update. Don't forget to stay with us on digital radio.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Currently, the M24 westbound is undergoing planned maintenance between Junction 22 at Pilning and Junction 23 at Rogier. As a result, the Prince of Wales Bridge is closed and diversions are in place. Meanwhile, in Cambridgeshire, on the A1 southbound entry slip from the A141, a broken-down vehicle is causing some disruption, with lane closures expected until 6:37 this morning. Motorists should proceed with caution and be prepared for possible delays. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Still to come for you, Paul Coyte's going to take us through all the sport. That's next.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Morning, it's 6:34 and it's time for our biggest giveaway to date. Your chance to win a motorhome worth more than £67,000 and £5,000 in tax-free cash. Imagine that. I've been dreaming about this since we launched this competition.
Where's the first place you would go in your motorhome?
Scotland. Somewhere in Scotland. Don't know where. Just love it, love it. Anyway, it would make you, if you win this, our biggest winner to date. So if you want to enter, here's how.
Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with sky roof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that wherever this motorhome takes you, it takes you there in style. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Right now, though, it's time to go through all the latest sports news with broadcaster Paul Coit, who's here in the studio. Paul.
Well, that was official.
Well,
Thank you very much.
You're broadcasting right now.
Hello. I feel like David Frost. That's where the similarity ends.
I was being generous, darling.
You know what? I want to mention first is Freddie Flintoff. Now, Freddie Flintoff, one of our great, if everybody remembers him as a cricketer, of one of our great sportsmen, but of course he was in that horrendous crash in 2022, filming for Top Gear. Always, I don't know about you, but watching these things, they get a celebrity involved, and it's like, this is someone who is not a professional driver. It happened with Richard Hammond years ago, and it's so dangerous.
Was he wearing a helmet, though, at this time?
Was he wearing... I don't think so, but
No,
the
I
thing...
don't think he was.
But what had happened is that it was just this awful crash, and you remember the newspapers were all coming out with this, and we're thinking... Is it that bad? That's the thing. You look at it and think, is it really that bad? But it really, really was. Now, there's a new Disney Plus documentary, which is called Flintoff, which is out on Friday. All about his life, all about his career, but obviously the crash is the main thing that people are talking about. So let's have a little look at the trial from that.
I remember everything about it.
Freddie Flintoff has been in a crash.
It's so vivid. His injuries are life-altering. This is what I'm left with.
It's... After the accident, I mean, some of the things that he says in there says, I didn't think I had it in me to get through. Part of me wishes that I'd been killed. I mean, it does get very graphic about the part these... I mean, if you're having your breakfast this morning, about half of his face being almost ripped off. It's... at least we're seeing there the whole career, but most of the press and most people are talking about is about this crash, which is everywhere, and it's on the front page of all the newspapers today, but it actually is out on Friday, or drops on Friday.
But he's like, OK, so I hear these sort of things, and it's very awful, and I couldn't even imagine what he's going through. But the fact that he survived, you know, it seems every time I hear and see him, he's always sort of whinging about this awful accident, which it was awful, but he survived, and he's got a great...
Yeah, but now
it seems like he's got a good family.
It's very easy for you. You know, you can say you see him whinging about this accident. The thing is, it was, yes, he almost died, but it's not... He's done so much else, but this seems to be what captures everybody's imagination, and this is what everybody asks him. So if you said to him, if you had Freddie Flintoff with you now, would you say to him, tell me about all the wickets you took for England, tell me about... Well, that's not the first thing you would ask, I'm sure, because it would come up, and that is the thing that changed his life and also disfigured him. So this is why there's so much about it. So I don't think he's whinging. I think
all I'm saying is that there's so much positive for him in terms of the fact that he survived, the fact that he's, you know, OK, awful to happen to your face and things, that is quite psychologically traumatic, but he's here, he's alive, he's got his family and everybody around him. I'd love to hear him talk more about how lucky he is. Maybe he does. Maybe he does.
There is, and he does. And even if you've seen that show about Freddie Flintoff and what he's done with kids, getting them involved in cricket, if you want positive stuff from Freddie Flintoff, that he's been all over that, and this is since the crash. He's done a lot.
But I'd love to hear more about that.
Don't forget that if you've got a documentary, that's going to be featured in it. That is the main part of it, and that's why it's being spoken about. But there's a lot of positivity.
I hope so.
All right.
There will be.
Can we have a look at the Premier League?
Yeah, let's do that. I mean, Arsenal yesterday, they drew 2-2 with Crystal Palace. The most important thing is that this is for Liverpool, because Liverpool now only need 1 point to win the Premier League.
Just 1 point.
1 point. And they're playing at home to, wait for it, Tottenham Hotspur. So, well, I'm not going to say anything, but anyway, I think I expect...
You never know.
You never know. It may go a little longer. But if Arsenal don't win their next game or get a point from their next game, then Liverpool are champions. But talk of champions, and this is in the Championship. Now, see what you think about this. Now, Burnley... We played a little bit of Scott Parker yesterday. Do you remember that? You know, when he was celebrating with Burnley, Nana, and as Burnley had been promoted into the Premier League. Now, the other team that have already been promoted, and that was happened a couple of days ago with Leeds. Now, the manager of Leeds, German, is Daniel Farke. Now, we've mentioned Daniel before. He's taken Norwich up. He's been promoted 3 times. But because Leeds are owned by an American company and they see stars now and they're thinking we're going up to the Premier League, Daniel Farke could actually be a victim of his own success, because it looks like, because he's taken them up to the Premier League, they're thinking, hey, we need a big name here. We need a new manager. And he's saying we want to buy new players, but it looks like he could actually lose his job by taking them up to the Premier League.
But that's ridiculous.
It's so unfair.
It's all about the
optics.
optics.
I think it would be a mistake, but this is what
But if he's good at what he's doing and he's, driving the team forward...
Absolutely.
And elevating them, then they should keep him, shouldn't they?
I think so, but there's a difference between the Championship and the Premier League, and they say that they want an elite... Well, I say that. This is the words that are coming out. An elite manager that will take them on to the next level, which I think is unfair.
Poor Daniel.
Let's just finish off, should we, on the woman who's trying to achieve a first by doing what, you do every other day, Paul,
I do.
Which is a 4-minute mile.
4-minute mile, yeah. I do at least 2 a week. There's... how many men do you think have run under 4 minutes for the mile? So 1954, Roger Bannister did it.
Yeah.
How many do you reckon have done it?
I reckon 10.
I would say, is it single figures?
No, well, I'm going to tell you because it's...
27.
It's about 2,000.
Oh, is it?
2,000 since 1954. A lot have done it. But no women have done it. Now, the closest is Faith Kipyegon. Now, she is an unbelievable runner. She's the closest that anybody's got. 4 minutes, 7 seconds, 0.64, which is in 2023. So Nike have put this whole thing together. They're going to give a special running spike. She's got a running suit that she'll have the pacemakers. And they're even having this thing called wave-like technology, which actually will project a line in front of her, so she can run after the line. What the keeper completely...
the line is
the world record. So that's what she's got to stick behind.
Oh, clever.
She's going to attempt it in Paris, and that's going to be in the...
Oh, good on her.
That's a great idea, but of course this is why men should never be in women's sports, especially in things like running, even if they say they're women.
Oh, yes, can we just have something nice?
Can we just
Nana?
drop that for a second? just for a second, because this is an unbelievable thing she's doing.
And well done
on. Let's fingers crossed. Let's move on,
I'm
Nana.
pointing out the fact that you said that how many women, no women have run under 4 minutes. So I'm bringing it back and saying that's one of the reasons why.
OK, Nana.
There you go. Honestly.
Never more than 2 seconds away from controversy. That's
the world record for controversy, 2.3 seconds. Is
Nana queer.
Well done.
I'll take that.
Still to come, papers with Alex Armstrong and Susie Stride. Before that, though, if you want some holiday sun, here's the forecast for the top European hotspots.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
An unsettled spell of weather over the next few days across southeastern parts of Europe. Heavy showers and thunderstorms, but elsewhere mostly settled, plenty of sunshine. The odd shower affecting parts of Greece, also the Adriatic coastline. These could be heavy and thundery, but as we shift our way further west, mostly settled thanks to the Azores high, plenty of sunshine, though it just could be quite breezy at times across Madeira and Tenerife. The heavy showers are set to continue into Saturday, but from Sunday, lots of sunshine and feeling warm in that sunshine too.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock, only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
A monumental breakthrough. Scientists have revealed that they've found strong evidence of alien life. Just 124 light years away.
Which is quite far, isn't it? Astronomers from Cambridge University have detected signs of molecules that do indicate life, so we may not be alone after all.
Well, joining us now to explain what on earth this exciting story is, the astronomer and broadcaster Mark Thompson joins us. Mark, just how important is this discovery?
It's incredibly important. For so many years now, we've been looking for some signs
that we're not alone in the universe. The universe is a massive place. It's often been said that there's more stars in the universe than there are grains of sand on Earth. So, it's a big place. And to think that we're the only intelligent species in the entire cosmos is difficult to understand. And the discovery that's just been announced is that there's something called dimethyl sulfide, which is an element made of hydrogen, carbon and sulfur, which at the moment we think the only possible way that could be there is through some form of primitive living organisms.
So this is because it's a very complicated gas to sort of combine together. There's no way there could be some sort of volcano churning this stuff out. It has to be some sort of biological life form as the most likely explanation.
Yeah, absolutely. There are other elements, but this particular element, dimethyl sulfide, at the moment, the only process we know of that can produce it is life. Now, of course, we're still in early stages of this discovery, and we still need to do a lot of work to see if there's any other processes we can identify that can produce it. But for now, the only thing we know of is life, and so the only explanation, therefore, is that it's life. But it is still early days.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
6:47, time for the newspapers now, and the Mail leads on Donald Trump's attack on Ukraine, where he's accused Zelensky of derailing peace talks.
The Daily Express quotes Kemi Badenoch in PMQs yesterday, where she accused the Prime Minister of lacking the gall to express his true feelings about the Supreme Court gender ruling.
The Sun has Freddie Flintoff opening up about his crash in that new documentary.
And the Daily Star headlines Plunder Hall as Oasis fans lose £2 million in scam ticket schemes.
They're so desperate to get a good headline out of that, aren't they? Plunder Hall, and there's another great one.
Plunder Hall.
Oh, here we go. The Metro, of all papers, has got 2 million Oasis Scampaign Supernova. Very good. Yeah. Very good.
I've actually got Oasis tickets.
Oh, have you?
Have you?
Let's see. Susie Stride, as you can see, is here with Alex Armstrong. She's a very lucky woman, clearly.
I just want to ask Susie very briefly.
Go on.
How are your feelings now? Should Keir Starmer apologise for backpedalling on the woman thing?
I don't know if he should apologise. Look, I think this whole thing has been an utter mess for so many years. And I worked for a long time with vulnerable women, vulnerable girls in schools, and it's something I'm very passionate about. And I think all I can say is I'm very happy about the ruling, that happened last week. I think it was very significant. And I just think we need to make sure that we have those separate spaces, that we're protecting women, women-only sport. But it's been a disaster for a number of years.
OK, fine. Good.
Alex, Ukraine.
Oh, yes.
Peace talks.
The gift that never stops giving, does it?
So Trump's now saying it's all down to Zelensky that it's falling apart.
Well, I mean, look, it's gone from Putin to Zelensky, Zelensky to Putin, and we're back to Zelensky again, right? So, obviously, Trump earlier in the week was saying Putin doesn't want to deal with Russia, is stalling this deal. But now, and this is very typical Zelensky, because we've seen a lot of this stuff from Zelensky, he and his team are saying, no, we want Crimea back. Now, look, I understand from a Ukrainian perspective, they want their territory that they lost. And, if this was the UK, I would want the same thing. If we lost the Isle of Wight, I'd want the Isle of Wight back. Of course, I totally get it. However, if we're going to do a peace deal, we've got to get to reality. The Russians have at least occupied that territory for many years now. This is not a fresh part of the war. And so
but you negotiate.
Of course, yeah.
On something you're not going to get.
What they're saying is now this negotiation is going on for too long. We're not making progress. And Zelensky is putting his foot down on an issue that he is not going to win on the Russians with. And if you want a peace deal, we've got to get it done. There's going to have to be some form of, you know, OK, we're not going to get that bit, but might get something else. I mean, and there are negotiations I read the other day where Putin will have to cede some land to Ukraine that he's got. So there is some good faith, it seems, finally getting done, but both sides have got to come to the table.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's quite a lot of concerning things around this. You know, I heard someone saying that we've had this World War II consensus, you know, since World War II, where the aggressor doesn't get to gain ground if they invade a sovereign territory. And what's quite concerning, I think, about some of these talks is that actually you go back on that, and that's not good for anyone. And, you know, people in this country lost their lives to say, actually, don't just get to invade sovereign territory. You know, that's something, you know, as Brits, we're not for that. So I'm actually concerned, you know, with this, and
Isn't that how people win territory through war? So that's kind of how it works. So even though it's not fair, and I agree with that, but that's how it works.
Well, yes and no. The point is that since World War II, we've had a consensus that says, actually, you know, we don't want aggressors to win in that way. And I think,
I mean, look,
you know...
The thing is, after World War II, we carved up most of Europe. We gave Russia territory to appease the Soviets. We carved up Germany in half. This is the reality of war. If we want peace, we have to be willing to come to the table at some point and say, for now, at least, this is our position. And I think we've got to have a dose of reality.
Talking about carving up Europe, Susie Stride, The Telegraph. Apparently Rachel Reeves is very keen on this sort of young people being able to travel across Europe and into the UK and all the rest of it with no restrictions. The Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, not so keen.
Yeah, I mean, look, ultimately, we all know, if Labour want to win the next election, you've got to bring those figures down. Do you know what I mean? So Yvette Cooper is going to be very, very sensitive about that, and rightly so, because we know the top two issues in the country at the moment for the British people is the economy and is immigration. And so she's going to be very sensitive about that, and that is absolutely right. But this is something slightly different. They're even saying you could call it something different, you know, youth experience or whatever. And this is, you know, and I think, you know, I mean, I've got a niece who's like 20-something year old. So I think it's important to keep an eye on those figures. We need to keep bringing those figures down. It's whether this actually can be of benefit to the economy.
In what way? I can't see it.
No, it's completely bonkers. The students aren't bringing money into the country. We don't need more people here. We are full. We need to be, you know, closing the borders, in my opinion. This is just a ridiculous backpedaling from the government, as they flip-flopped on this issue quite a lot. I mean, I'd like to see them come out and say, actually, no, look, we're trying to get numbers down. As Susie said, we can't continue. It's
Rhetoric, isn't it? I mean, that matters in all of this. They've got to, whatever they think, they've got to be seen to be being tough on immigration.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're about to go into local elections. You know, I mean, there's a reason why Nigel Farage is, you know, doing how well he is, because, you know, you interview people across this country on any other issue, and this is what's going to come up. You know, I think they were interviewing people on the bins, and this is what is coming up. Yeah. Because this is what people are concerned about. Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. OK, you two, thank you very much indeed. We shall see you a little bit later on. Still to come for you here on Breakfast, of course, the very latest from Rome, where the Pope is lying in state in St Peter's Basilica, and Ellie Costello is there for us.
Yes, the doors of St Peter's Basilica have just opened for the second day of Pope Francis lying in state, and already tourists and pilgrims flocking through to get that last glimpse of the pontiff. In fact, the doors had to open beyond that time of midnight last night to cope with demand. I'll have the latest from Rome, but for now, here's the weather with Honor Krizik.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head through today, it should be largely dry for many, but rather cloudy at times. This cloud thick enough to produce some drizzle, particularly across the southeast. The best of the brightness likely across the northwest. So quite a murky start for many, particularly across the southeast. Some drizzle, some fog at times. This will eventually clear through the morning, but some of that cloud sticking around, particularly across parts of the south. The best of any sunny breaks across west parts of Scotland, northwestern parts of England, and thicker clouds starting to push into western parts of Northern Ireland too, where we'll eventually start to see some rain. But in the sunny spells, feeling warm, highs of around 17 degrees Celsius, but always feeling that little bit chillier around eastern coasts. Then to end the day across Scotland, once again it should be a largely dry and clear end to the day. Some patchy cloud at times, particularly around Aberdeenshire, for example. Plenty of clear skies towards the west. But across Northern Ireland, starting to turn quite cloudy and murky, particularly around western coasts, where we'll eventually introduce some outbreaks of rain. Elsewhere across much of England and Wales, once again largely dry, though we can't rule out the odd shower, particularly across Wales and parts of Devon and Cornwall. And for many, it should remain largely dry as we head through the overnight period. That's away from Northern Ireland, though. More and more outbreaks of rain moving through here. Could turn quite heavy at times, particularly across southern-facing hilly areas, and quite blustery around exposed coast too. So a very wet start here across Northern Ireland, but elsewhere largely dry. Perhaps some low cloud feeding in once again around eastern coasts. So for Northern Ireland in particular, it's going to be a very wet day. Do take care if you're travelling around. It's likely we'll see poor visibility, some quite disruptive travel conditions potentially. Eventually some more rain starting to move into western parts of Scotland, perhaps later into western parts of Wales and the southwest. But for many, once again, it's going to be largely dry. Quite cloudy at times, but in the sunnier breaks, still feeling warmer, and a lot warmer around eastern coasts as well, but quite cool across Northern Ireland under all the cloud and rain.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Delays are ongoing on the A726 eastbound at the College Milton Rail Bridge due to planned maintenance. Motorists are urged to use caution as they approach. Additionally, the westbound M4 from Junction 22 at Pilning and Prince of Wales Bridge to Junction 23 at Rogier is closed due to resurfacing work, with diversions in place. Please stay up to date at gbnews.com for more travel news.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with sky roof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that wherever this motorhome takes you, it takes you there in style. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Good morning. The government risks a north-south divide as it considers charging southerners more for electricity.
Energy Secretary Ed Miliband is accused of toying with the postcode lottery system.
But could it have disastrous consequences for our economy?
Donald Trump lashes out at Volodymyr Zelensky as he says Ukraine must cede territory or risk a never-ending war.
I think we have a deal with Russia. We have to get a deal with Zelensky, and I hope that Zelensky, I thought it might be easier to deal with Zelensky. So far, it's been harder.
Well, Pope Francis lying in state for a second day in St. Peter's Basilica as preparations get underway for his funeral. And Ellie is in Rome for us.
Well, St. Peter's Basilica has had to extend its opening hours last night in order to cope with demand as thousands of pilgrims and tourists flood into St. Peter's Square to try and pay their respects to the late Holy Father.
In commemoration of the 80th anniversary of VE Day, Royal Mail released a very special set of stamps.
Lib Dems are backing a music ban on public transport. We're debating whether playing songs and podcasts out loud is a real faux pas.
And in sport this morning, Freddie Flintoff has spoken candidly about the crash that nearly killed him. Rory McIlroy has had messages from everyone after his Masters win, including 2 American presidents. And Arsenal's draw with Crystal Palace last night means that Liverpool now just need a point at home to Spurs on Sunday to win their 20th league title.
Hello there, good morning. A mostly dry day ahead, but cloudy at times with some heavy outbreaks of rain later. Stay tuned and I'll have all the details.
Just gone 7 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Nana Aquia, and this is GB News Breakfast.
I know the Lib Dems maybe should have something better to think about than the music, but it is really irritating. I quite support the idea of banning people playing music on public transport.
It's too loud.
Out loud, yeah.
Out loud. Put your headphones on.
Yeah. Listen, I got a really funny thing happened about 10 years ago. I was on the train. I was on the District Line on the Underground in London. And as I got on the train, I swear this is absolutely true, sitting, I saw the lead singer at the Manic Street Preachers. Was sitting there reading the paper.
Yeah.
I'd noticed him. Anyway, where I then went and sat down, someone was listening to the Manic Street Preachers.
Never.
So I sitting there. So I was like, and I didn't want to actually say, by the way, Bradfield's over there. The lead singer. So I was trying to go. I know that's true. But of course, nobody speaks on the train.
No.
Everybody thought I was crazy, but he was over there and someone was listening to him, and I don't think they noticed. And I so wanted to put them together.
Oh, that's a real shame, actually. It's a real shame.
I know.
Oh. It's just locked over there. At least you noticed.
I noticed. I did notice.
All right. Paul, thanks very much indeed. Look, there's a big energy meeting taking place in London. World leaders gathering to talk about energy and all sorts of stuff. But one of the things which Ed Miliband is going to raise, apparently over here, is the idea of having different bills depending on where you live, a postcode lottery sort of thing with bills, depending on demand. And that could very possibly mean electricity would be more expensive down south and potentially cheaper up north, and certainly cheaper in Scotland, it would seem. Is it a good idea or not? Let's head to Westminster. We can talk to the Shadow Financial Secretary, Gareth Davis. Good morning to you. I've got to ask, what do you make of this?
Morning.
Good morning. Well, I'm just hearing of this. I mean, we'll wait to see the detail, but I think it would be another example of how families are going to be paying more for their energy bills at a time when they're already increasing and they were promised that they would go down. So while we'll look at the detail, I think it's important that we step back, have a proper policy and agenda and plan for how we want to rebalance our energy supplies and not be dependent on foreign sources so that families aren't paying more and are being disproportionately burdened.
Now, Gareth, Rachel Reeves was in Washington. She's been trying to secure some sort of trade deal. How do you think that she has fared so far? Because she seems to be continually blaming Donald Trump and tariffs for the state, or for part of the state of the UK economy. Is she fair in doing that?
Well, let me take that in two parts. First of all, I'm a conservative, I'm free trade. I want to see lower tariffs because they're a tax on consumers. And so it is important that this government act with urgency to secure a free trade agreement for the thousands of people who are going to be impacted by the tariffs in this country. I mean, it is positive, at least, that as a result of leaving the European Union, we are in a lower tariff band than they are in Europe. But that free trade agreement is what will ultimately secure our future and help provide that security for jobs across the country. But in terms of the economy, look, when you run a G7 economy, there are global factors all the time. What you don't do is overexpose your economy to those global factors. And as we've seen with Rachel Reeves and what the IMF have said this week, it is the domestic choices of this Chancellor that have exposed us. It's the 40 billion tax raid. It's the debt that is increasing more than anybody expected. Those are the decisions that I think we have to hold the Chancellor to account on, which have overexposed us to global factors.
It's interesting, though, because, I mean, whereas it's a perfectly valid point, what you're not doing is sort of laying into the fact the Chancellor's not got us a free trade deal yet, even though you'd like to see one. Is that partly because your leader, Kemi Badenoch, has already said you can't do a deal that would involve us having to change our legislation when it comes to things like chlorinated chicken, when it comes to hormone beef being allowed into the UK? I mean, she's already... If she was negotiating this, we wouldn't have got anywhere yet.
Well, I think this is a delayed process. I think Labour could have acted much quicker. If you remember back on, in terms of Donald Trump's first term, we did make great progress in negotiating close to a free trade agreement with Donald Trump, but then he lost the election to Joe Biden, and Joe Biden made it clear it wasn't a priority for him. So they could have taken that up immediately with Donald Trump to make sure that we're not in this position today. So I don't accept that. I think Kemi would have acted much quicker. We're now in a situation where this is a delayed free trade agreement, and it's British families and the jobs that could be at risk as a result of that. But it is positive, at least, that Rachel Reeves is in Washington this week, and we'd urge her to make progress with Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, and Keir Starmer with the President of the United States. This is going to be absolutely critical for our economy, as I was talking about.
I'm going to ask you about the Labour Party focusing on a youth mobility scheme. Where do the Conservative Party sit on that?
Well, we want less migration, not more migration, and we know that Labour are cozying up to the European Union. And we know that when Labour negotiate, Britain loses. Just look at the Chagos deal, just look at the union deals that they secured and the fact that strikes are still going on in Birmingham. So I don't have much confidence in this Labour government to deliver for the British people. But as I said, you know, we've got a problem with migration, and we were partly responsible for that, as we've said before. But what would not help is a youth mobility scheme.
I mean, the argument is, you know, it's good for the economy. I mean, and if it is limited to a certain a certain group of people for a certain amount of time, perhaps that's worth overlooking, is it?
Well, we want the right people to come to this country who can contribute to our economy and our society. That's a pretty clear position that we've got. We don't believe that renegotiating with the European Union about an element of free movement, no matter who that's for, is the right approach, as I've said.
OK. Gareth Davis, good to see you this morning. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you.
He's the Shadow Financial Secretary.
It's. I have to say, I do find it very odd that this idea of free movement for a group of people is sort of being discussed again. I thought that was all put to bed. I thought that was the whole point of the whole Brexit debate.
Well, yeah, I think they should, and they're just... It's a creep back into the EU, really. That's what they're trying to do, by just little nuggets of it and just putting it all back in. I think we need to be very careful with that, especially when we have a problem with immigration, and also I think the Home Office aren't very good at dealing with any of it, so this will be another job for them to do that they'll also do badly.
Yeah, well, possibly. Let us know what you think. gbnews.com/yoursay. Let's talk to journalist and broadcaster Christo Foufaf Foo-fass.
Well, I have been known to foo-fass.
I bet you have.
Now and then.
I bet you have. Christo, I mean, can we start looking at these electricity prices?
Yeah.
What do you make of it all?
I think it's a bad idea. I think that you need to have a level playing field when it comes to energy bills across the United Kingdom. I think that the industries that are saying that this is going to lead to certain areas in the UK not getting investment, especially the areas that require renewables, which is supposed to be the whole strategy of this government, I think that they have a really fair point. If the areas that have the highest demand need renewables, well, those are the areas where the energy is going to be most expensive. If you don't have if you have this dynamic pricing, it's like tickets for Oasis, isn't it? So you are not going to encourage those industries to invest in those places, which is where you need the renewables. It doesn't make any sense.
But some people would argue that actually having regional power centres, you have more control of the actual price of the energy, which is one of the problems that we have at the moment, that it's over one massive area, the entire country, and therefore that way regional areas don't have an ability to use what they have in their area to price their own structures.
I think the fair point about the regional areas is the fact that we obviously have areas where there is they don't have the demand, so therefore they have to pay the providers of renewables to not have to.
So wind farms and
all that stuff. I mean, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever, and there needs to be more joined-up thinking about that. But why is it fairer that someone in an area of high demand has to pay more for their electricity? Why is that fair?
Well, I don't think it's fair, but I look at this, that's the law of supply and demand. I don't agree with this at all, but I can see what they're trying to do. But won't it end up being another administrative nightmare?
But also, whether you like it or not, whether one likes it or not, there are going to be poorer people in the areas with higher demand. Big cities have a larger population of poorer people, and it's going to be the bigger cities that have this higher demand. So you're going to end up with the very people that Labour claim they want to help, which is the poorest in society, paying more.
Once again.
And it doesn't make any sense.
Can we talk about free trade deals, or the possibility of one, with Rachel Reeves in Washington? What is the deal here? Because apparently we've already sort of put on the table that we would look at the digital services tax, which is a big issue for the states. So that's a big concession to Trump. What we're not looking at is things like the good old chlorinated chicken or the beef issue. Should we be looking at that? Should we be putting that on the table? Because it doesn't look like Labour wants to. The Conservatives wouldn't. So maybe we need to stick to our guns on that.
I do think we need to stick to our guns on that, because I don't want us to have lower food standards. Who wants to? I mean, I'm sick of hearing about chlorinated chicken. Frankly. I mean, that's all I ever hear about. But I think that we do need to have some red lines. I do think that we need to put our foot down when it comes to these sorts of things. Now, do we need a deal?
Do you know what chlorinated chicken is? It's just chicken washed in chlorine, obviously, because it's not being treated as well, but it'll be a cheaper price. You can choose. What's wrong with having... do you eat salad from the bags? Salad bags?
Well, I wash it thoroughly before I do so.
It's chlorinated.
I do. I always wash it.
Yeah,
I've washed your salad from a bag.
It's pre-washed.
I always wash it.
I don't trust the pre-washing.
Yeah, but then can't you do the same with your chlorinated chicken? It's just... Look, we have lots of things chlorinated, including water. So I just think, for goodness sake,
well, I'm sorry.
You've got a choice.
OK, well, I won't claim to be the world's expert on chlorinated chicken. I mean, that is something I will, fess up to right now. But I can't see how putting chlorine onto chicken is something that can be considered a good thing.
Well, it's just about cleaning it, isn't it? Because sometimes it's in areas where there's lots of bacteria.
So would you eat lots of chlorinated chicken?
No, because I've got choice. It's somebody who doesn't really care about that.
Meat is something that I think that we should be actually paying a bit more for anyway. I think we all eat a bit less and have better cared for meat, to be honest. And so if this is going to flood the market with cheap chlorinated meat, I don't think that's a good thing, especially for the poorest in Britain.
Well, it's not good for our farmers, actually.
No, so I don't agree with that.
I don't know, but I don't think so. I think that people have choice, and I don't think there should be a big sticking point over any trade deal. We have our standards. If we have a set standard and you're allowed to chlorinate things like salad and things like that, you can do it with chicken.
Maybe we should be looking at less chlorine in salads rather than putting more chlorine into things like chicken? Why don't we have a bit less chlorine in salads?
Like, my choice is to spend a little bit more, buy British, and do it that way. That's what my choice is.
Well, then why are we bringing something into the market that is not going to help British farmers? If your choice is to buy British because it's good for Britain and good for you, why would you then want to bring in something as part of a trade deal that actually isn't good for Britain?
Well, I don't know whether it isn't or it isn't. I think it's just a free trade.
There we must leave it. Good to see you, Christo. Thank you very much indeed. On the issue of the proposed changes to the energy sector, a spokesperson for the Department of Energy Security and Net Zero said, in an unstable world, the only way to guarantee our energy security and protect consumers from future energy price shocks is by moving towards homegrown power. We're considering reforms to the electricity market arrangements, ensuring that these focus on protecting bill payers and encouraging investment. We will provide an update in due course.
Right, well, if you just tuned in, welcome. It's just coming up to 16 minutes after 7 o'clock. In other political news, the Shadow Justice Secretary, Robert Jenrick, has said that he will try one way or another to unite the Conservatives and Reform.
But in an interview with our political editor, Chris Hope, the leader of Reform, Nigel Farage, has shut down the idea.
Robert Jenrick, the Shadow Justice Secretary, was recorded saying that one way or another he wants to make sure Reform and the Conservatives do not compete at the next general election. He wants to bring together this coalition of support. You're leader of Reform UK. Do you agree with him?
If I agreed with him, I think my supporters would be revolted.
In revolt and revolted?
I mean, absolutely, yeah, both. I agree. I mean, you know, we had 14 years of the Conservative Party. Taxes the highest since 1947. The state growing. The civil service growing. Mass immigration at levels even Tony Blair couldn't have dreamt of. I mean, they let people down by every single measure. And when it comes to Brexit, everything from fishing to financial services feels actually they didn't get anything like what they expected.
They were blown off course by COVID, by the Ukraine war.
They didn't.
By Brexit, which wasn't their policy.
No,
you know all this.
They didn't believe in it. They didn't believe in it. They used it in 2019 as a political opportunity. They didn't believe in it. And that's why...
But his point is, why not unite the right to get your policies, broadly your policies, with the Tories into power and keep Labour out? Are you willing to sacrifice that?
As you will see in the next few weeks. And as I predicted in the early hours of the 5th of July in Clacton, I said, we've dealt with the Conservative Party, we're now coming for Labour. We are coming for Labour. Those Labour voters, some of whom did vote Conservative in 2019, will never do so again.
Just for clarity, yes or no, would you do a deal with Robert Jenrick or the Tories?
I would only do a deal with people who I could trust. I don't trust them.
Now, thousands... oh, excuse me, my voice is going this morning. Thousands of mourners have been pouring into St Peter's Basilica to pay their respects to Pope Francis, whose body is now lying in state ahead of his funeral.
The Basilica remained open past its scheduled hours yesterday to accommodate the crowds and long queues of mourners.
As you know, Ellie is in Rome for us all week and is across the whole situation. Morning, Ellie.
Yes, good morning to you, Stephen and Nana. And I don't even think the Vatican had accounted for the sheer number of people who would want to see Pope Francis lying in state. As you say, St Peter's Basilica was meant to close at midnight last night. Their opening hours had to be extended into the early hours to allow for those pilgrims and tourists to come in and pay their last respects. And actually, Stephen and Nana, last night, just before midnight, people were running down the streets of Rome into St Peter's Square trying to get to the Basilica before it was set to shut at midnight. Just a sense of how desperate these people are to capture this moment in history and to say their final respects and a thank you to Pope Francis. It's also worth mentioning the heat here in Rome. I mean, yesterday afternoon when Pope Francis was laid inside this magnificent basilica behind me, people began to queue and they were facing queues of up to 8 hours in 22-degree heat. So this is a test of endurance for those pilgrims and tourists who decide to join the lines. But of course, if you do have Catholic faith, you would consider an 8-hour wait to be worth every moment for those few seconds that you get by the late pontiff to bow your head in prayer and to say thank you for everything he's done for your church. Also worth mentioning this morning, Stephen and Nana, that in about 45 minutes time, local time here in Rome, the cardinals will be meeting, and they're going to be meeting every day now until the funeral, and we're expecting the conclave, one of the most secretive processes in history, to take place. The earliest date we understand to be the 5th of May. Up until then there's a series of events and meetings, so it looks as though the earliest that could take place is the 5th of May, and then the whole world will be watching and waiting for this white smoke to appear from the Sistine Chapel, which is just behind me here, and that will tell the whole world that there is now a new Pope. But for now, this is a time of mourning and a time of reflection for the People's Pope, who is now lying in state.
OK, Ellie, for now, thank you.
Right, well, let's check on the weather with Honor Krisick.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head through today, it should be largely dry for many, but rather cloudy at times. This cloud thick enough to produce some drizzle, particularly across the southeast. The best of the brightness likely across the northwest. So quite a murky start for many, particularly across the southeast. Some drizzle, some fog at times. This will eventually clear through the morning, but some of that cloud sticking around, particularly across parts of the south. The best of any sunny breaks across western parts of Scotland, northwestern parts of England, and thicker clouds starting to push into western parts of Northern Ireland too, where we'll eventually start to see some rain. But in the sunny spells, feeling warm, highs of around 17 degrees Celsius, but always feeling that little bit chillier around eastern coasts. Then to end the day across Scotland, once again it should be a largely dry and clear end to the day. Some patchy cloud at times, particularly around Aberdeenshire, for example. Plenty of clear skies towards the west. But across Northern Ireland, starting to turn quite cloudy and murky, particularly around western coasts, where we'll eventually introduce some outbreaks of rain. Elsewhere across much of England and Wales, once again largely dry. We can't rule out the odd shower, particularly across Wales and parts of Devon and Cornwall. And for many, it should remain largely dry as we head through the overnight period. That's away from Northern Ireland, though. More and more outbreaks of rain moving through here. Could turn quite heavy at times, particularly across southern-facing hilly areas, and quite blustery around exposed coast too. So a very wet start here across Northern Ireland, but elsewhere largely dry. Perhaps some low cloud feeding in once again around eastern coasts. So for Northern Ireland in particular, it's going to be a very wet day. Do take care if you're travelling around. It's likely we'll see poor visibility, some quite disruptive travel conditions potentially. Eventually some more rain starting to move into western parts of Scotland, perhaps later into western parts of Wales and the southwest. But for many, once again, it's going to be largely dry. Quite cloudy at times, but in the sunnier breaks, still feeling warmer, and a lot warmer around eastern coasts as well, but quite cool across Northern Ireland under all the cloud and rain.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Right, still to come for you, the Royal Mail has released a very special edition of stamps to commemorate VE Day 80 years on. We'll tell you more in a moment.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here
We do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we are in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
$7.26 now. Our biggest giveaway to date, that time of the day again. You could win a motorhome worth more than £67,000. You get £5,000 in tax-free cash to go with it, and also I have offered to drive it to your house.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Seriously?
But it was requested by Paula. Morning, Paula.
Good morning,
she
Paula.
She said if she wins it, she wanted me to drive it to her. So that's an offer. It is on the table.
God, imagine all the places you could go.
Oh, I'm not saying I'd come straight to your house. It might take me 3 weeks to get there. Oh, it'd be lovely. What a lovely little holiday that would be.
Yeah, but you got to drive.
Oh, yeah, no, great.
Well, if you don't drink, that's handy.
Yeah, no, don't drink.
Exactly.
Perfect. I'd love it. Anyway, look, enough of me waffling on and dreaming of winning it, because I can't win it, but you can. Here's how.
Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with sky roof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that wherever this motorhome takes you, it takes you there in style. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, good luck indeed, yes.
Nana says if I drove it anywhere, I'd crash it, which would be a disaster.
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
No.
That would be terrible.
That would be... Oh, anyway, I still want one. Now, in commemoration of VE Day 80, Royal Mail is issuing a very special set of stamps.
Now, the main collection will honour men and women for their contributions during the Second World War.
Well, let's talk to Director of External Affairs at the Royal Mail, David Gold. It's really good to see you this morning, David. I mean, the stamps look fantastic. It's lovely to have these little insights into individuals. That's what's really nice about it. I just wonder how on earth you went about picking these people.
Well, as you say, so many people contributed to the victory in 1945. We couldn't put them all on stamps, but what we've tried to do is move away from the generals and the politicians and try to reflect the contribution of so many people who sadly remain anonymous to most of us. So I think of George Arthur Roberts, the first black man to join the London Auxiliary Fire Service, and I think of John Harrison, who served the Royal Navy on the destroyer HMS Belfast. They're just 2 of the 10 extraordinary people who are featured in these stamps. And obviously a massive task to try to pick just 10. But I hope what we've done and what we tried to do was reflect the breadth of the different people and the fact that they came from all over the country, serving not only here in the UK, but also in the occupied territories around the world.
You know, I think it's actually a really lovely idea because it reminds people that it wasn't just English people who fought in there. There were people from all over the world who came to fight for us, and which is amazing. But I'm just wondering, how is it with stamps? Are people buying stamps much? How was the Royal Mail doing? I'd buy them just to have them. I wouldn't use them, but are people still buying stamps? And how much is first class?
Well, thankfully, so many people still do. There are tens of millions of people around the world who are stamp collectors, of course. And so for them, this is the sort of thing that they love to see. But thankfully, we do still send a lot of letters in the UK, though not as many as we used to. Last year, there were 6.7 billion letters in our system. That's down a lot from 2004 when we were more like 20 billion. But I really hope that stamps like these will encourage people to send a card or send a letter to somebody they perhaps don't see every day, so that we can celebrate and commemorate these great people and spread awareness of the massive contribution that they made, so that today, here and now, we can enjoy being on this show and have the freedom to say the things that we want to say.
It's quite interesting, isn't it, with stamps, I always find, especially when they have a meaning like this, is that you do get that little sort of pinprick to have a think about something just because a letter has arrived through the door with a picture of someone on who you don't know and a little bit of info you can read. It actually does make a difference.
Absolutely, and it's one of the things that for more than 60 years Royal Mail has been doing, which is celebrating the best of this country, whether it's the people or the contributions they make to the world. And I think that particularly this set really show why it's so important we still run the special stamps programme. So even if they do sit in a collection that is only brought out once or twice a year, or whether they're sent on an envelope in the post to somebody that you love or are friends with, I think there's still an important role. And I really hope that Royal Mail will continue to do this for many years to come, putting a spotlight on the people and the contributions made from this country to the wider world.
That's lovely. How much does the Royal Mail first-class stamp cost these days? And will these be the same price as normal?
These will be normal price stamps and still remarkably good value, actually. It's still lower than the average price in Europe. So I really hope people will go out and, if perhaps they don't send letters regularly, I hope on this occasion they'll make an exception.
OK, David, really good to see you. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
I do love all this sort of thing.
I do as well.
But I don't
Although David didn't say how much a first-class stamp was, which I found interesting, seeing as he's...
He might not know off the top of his head.
Well, he should know, because it's what I know. It's £1.70.
Oh, it's gone up, yeah.
£1.70. He should know that. He should be telling... That's why I asked him. I thought I'll try one last time to see if he can tell me, but he didn't.
I mean, it is
well, that's it. No, but that's his positioning. He's an expert. He should know that.
But there is something nice about getting a letter. I mean, I know everyone emails and texts and WhatsApps and all the rest of it. There is still something nice about getting a handwritten letter, I think.
Do you know my handwriting?
Call me old-fashioned.
I don't know whether you'd be able to read my handwriting.
Oh, is it terrible?
Well, it's just... sometimes
let me read your notes.
Sometimes I start... What does it say?
Oh, you're so rude about me. What a terrible thing to say about me.
Well, I didn't think you'd be able to read it. Nobody else can.
Right, still to come for you.
I remember everything about it.
Freddie Flintoff has been in a crash.
It's so vivid. His injuries are life-altering. This is what I'm left with.
Well, Freddie opens up about his crash on Top Gear. We'll have more on that with Paul in a minute.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Motorists on the M4 headed westbound will face disruptions due to resurfacing work between Junction 22 at Pilning and Junction 23 at Rogier, with diversions currently in place. The A726 is currently restricted eastbound at the College Milton Rail Bridge due to ongoing planned maintenance. Drivers are advised to approach with caution in this area. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
7:37, Paul's got the sport. Good morning.
Morning.
There's a lot of focus, a lot of the papers this morning about Freddie Flintoff.
Yes, there is. I mean, it's great publicity, isn't it, for Disney+.
Oh, yeah.
And I've just done it as well. But it is a documentary about his life, and it's a 90-minute documentary, which is dropping on Friday. But the thing is, everybody's focusing on the crash.
Yeah, of course.
That's what everybody talks about. I mean, he was a marvellous cricketer, and I just wonder how much of cricket is going to be in there and how much is it going to be on the accident. But it was a horror crash. Of course it was. He was filming for Top Gear 2022, and he's
a little Morgan, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was. It was just, but it was an awful crash. I mean, he said he didn't think he had it in me to get it through, and
was he wearing a helmet there? Did we find out?
Do we know
whether that would have helped him?
I don't know if you would wear a helmet in a Morgan, would you, for that sort of thing?
I don't know.
When it comes to speeds and all that.
Was he going fast as well? I heard he was going
fast.
Was he?
Yeah, he was going 130.
Hard and soft tissue injuries,
a helmet, then.
broken teeth, lost teeth, upper jawbone fracture. I mean, it's awful, and he went through a lot, and mentally very scarring as well. And he didn't even leave the house for 7 months.
That's awful.
So it's a very interesting story, of course, but he opens up about everything.
Yeah.
Well, I hope
it'll be an interesting watch.
I think it will be.
I hope he's got lots of positive things to say as well about.
Sure he has.
I'm sure he has, Nana. Talk about positive. Should we do Rory? Should we mention Rory?
Yes.
So Rory McIlroy, we all love Rory McIlroy, and of course a couple of weeks ago he won the Masters, which meant it was the Grand Slam of golf, which meant he's one of only 6 golfers of all time to win all 4, which is the US PGA, the Open, the US Open and the Masters.
Was it him that had his daughter on the golf course?
That's it, yeah. And by the way, when you're swinging your golf club, less risk there. Less risk. Keep you a little bit straight. That's it. There you go. And, that was it. And he had his daughter Poppy there beforehand. So he was humbled by the amount of people that got in contact with him. I don't know whether it's like, Rory, I wonder if I'd love to be your friend. But he also had... presidents that were all over him as well. Calls from can you guess who the two presidents were?
Well, Trump, surely.
Obviously, there's not that many around these days. So Donald Trump, of course, was straight on the phone because he's played socially with Trump before.
Has he?
I don't... But what do you do? I mean, the thing is when
you've got to let him win.
Well... That's just what I'm thinking. I don't think Donald Trump would be the sort of person would take it too well if you say, no, I'm sorry, you got to putt that from 3 feet. It'd go, is that a gimme? You know, do I pick it up and take it away? So Donald Trump was one. The other one was Obama, who was he's also played golf with Obama as well. What a great 3-ball that would be between the three of them. Bill Clinton, though, old school, sent him a letter.
Oh, really?
Congratulating him. Yeah.
Oh, how nice, though.
Yeah, bless him.
How nice. What else we got?
I think I prefer a letter.
I would prefer a letter.
I prefer a letter than the...
Be nice.
You put it up there.
Yeah.
Emma Raducanu has played in... I'm beginning to be obsessed with Emma Raducanu, and it's beginning to worry me with her tennis. First round of the Madrid Open. How did she do?
She won, didn't she?
Did she?
Straight sets. Yeah.
She won.
Straight sets?
Yeah.
Yes, Suzanne Lamons from the Netherlands, 7-6, 6-4. So it's the first win on outdoor clay. Indoor clay is a different proposition, but outdoor clay for 3 years. Marta Kotyuk of Ukraine, she plays next. Mark Pecci is the latest lamb to the... No, sorry, not lamb to the slaughter. Coach, that's right, who was looking after it.
I love watching tennis. So tennis is another great one to watch.
But?
No, there's no but there.
Oh, OK.
Oh, right,
that's good. Oh, nice.
Yeah. Wow, that's positive and nice. I don't know what to do with myself.
And let's do some. Should we do some sporting birthdays?
Yes, please. While we're on a high.
OK, let's look at sporting birthdays. No arguing about the age. I've looked at the birth certificates, Nana. I know for a fact these are correct. Right, let's go with Laura Kenny first. Laura Kenny, one of our greatest ever athletes. Oh, look, we've got a little film of Laura there. 5-time Olympic gold medal cyclist.
34.
34 for Laura Kenny.
Wait, I never even got to think about it.
No, you have to. You got to go as well.
It's all yours.
So he got the answer right?
No.
34. Quizzes go. Well, I ask a question, you guess, and then I tell you after.
I think she's got to be a bit older than that. I think
you
she's...
think so?
Yeah, I think she's going to be about 37.
37, 34, 33.
33.
33. Let's go with one more. We go with another one. I think we've got a golfer. How about Lee Westwood? Lee Westwood...
Ooh.
Ryder Cup legend as well, and that's, I think, you know, when we see golfers, they look a bit older, but that looks pretty much on the money. So look at him and tell me how... 58 for
I'm going 51.
52. Very good.
Really?
We're going again. Stuart Pearce, legendary footballer for England, Nottingham Forest. Of course, playing, had a little heart thing happen recently.
63.
63 for Stuart Pearce, Nana.
67.
63 is the correct answer. We're one up. One more. Ashley Barty, 3-time Grand Slam tennis champion. She retired young. So she only retired a couple of years ago. Young. Ash Barty, how old is she today? So 1 up to Stephen at the moment.
35.
Please feel free to play.
I'm going 38.
35.
Oh, no, 29. She's just...
Oh, God,
she really did read
29.
She looked older than 29.
In that picture.
Yeah. Hard life, hard game she was playing in.
Sorry.
All
right, Paul, excellent, thank you.
Frank Warren joins us, legendary boxing promoter, talking about Chris Eubank Jr. against Conor Benn. He'll be with us in about an hour's time.
Oh, really?
Fantastic.
Fabulous. Looking forward to that.
Lovely.
Wonderful.
Right, still to come, though, in a couple of minutes, we've got the papers with Alex Armstrong and Susie Stride. There they are. Give us a wave.
There we go.
In the meantime, if you want a bit of holiday sun, here's the European forecast.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
An unsettled spell of weather over the next few days across southeastern parts of Europe. Heavy showers and thunderstorms, but elsewhere mostly settled, plenty of sunshine. The odd shower affecting parts of Greece, also the Adriatic coastline. These could be heavy and thundery, but as we shift our way further west, mostly settled thanks to the Azores high, plenty of sunshine, though it just could be quite breezy at times across Madeira and Tenerife. The heavy showers are set to continue into Saturday, but from Sunday, lots of sunshine and feeling warm in that sunshine too.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
And the restaurant chain Toby Carvery has come under fire after chopping down a significant 400-year-old oak tree. It's considered to be more ecologically significant than the Sycamore Gap.
Yeah, so this tree is 6.1 metres wide. There it is, fallen down. It was one of London's oldest and largest, and it supports more native wildlife than any other tree, making it crucial for biodiversity, apparently.
All the woodlice must be so sad. Well, the chain believed that it had a legal right to fell this tree, which was not covered by a tree protection order.
Well, we're joined by Chief Executive of the Tree Council, Sarah Lom.
I mean, I was down on site this morning, and I have to say, first of all, you know, it makes you really, really sad to see this tree with its branches just chopped up lying there, but also really, really angry that it could have happened, that there isn't enough protection around to have stopped this happening. You know, we're incredibly lucky in the UK. We have more ancient trees than the whole of Europe combined. So it's really, really important that we look after them.
Now, of course, the restaurant argues that the tree was dead or dying, and of course that it was on their land, it was their property. So what do you say to their argument that they were within their rights to cut down this tree?
I mean, I'd like to know who assessed the tree to be dead. Normally, you know, you would have an arboricultural report and it would be in depth, in detail. We haven't seen that. Nobody seems to have seen that. So, you know, that could have shown that, in fact, perhaps the tree could have been managed better in some way. You know, it could have had some of the branches lifted, and then the tree would have survived rather than just felling it to the ground.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we are in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
7:47. Papers this morning. The Mail has Donald Trump's attack on Ukraine overnight. He's accused Zelensky of derailing the peace talks.
The Daily Express leads with a quote from Kemi Badenoch in PMQs yesterday, where she accused the Prime Minister of lacking the gall to express his true feelings about the Supreme Court ruling.
Sun has Freddie Flintoff opening up about his Top Gear crash in a new documentary.
The Daily Star leads with the headline Plunder Haul, as Oasis fans lose £2 million in scam ticket schemes.
All right, let's go through some of those with Alex Armstrong and Susie Stride.
Good morning.
You
Good
two.
morning.
Telegraph, Susie. A social media curfew could be on the way for youngsters.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that this is one of the big battles of our time, isn't it? You know, our children's minds. And I think this is very, very important. This is about making sure that actually we're protecting children, not just from their phone usage. And what I'm really interested by in this story is this thing that TikTok have introduced something for under 16s where their phone will just almost go blank at 10 p.m. and calming music is played. And obviously what that's supposed to do is decrease the amount, because these apps, they're so addictive.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not that they're necessarily looking at good stuff. They can be looking at obviously quite harmful stuff. And so that's part of, you know, what's being suggested here, you know, bringing things in that are going to You know.
Well, we were talking about this in the break, is that China, of course, have their own way of doing this. The government are very, very strict over those. You know, it's basically a dictatorship, but they only allow gaming consoles for 2 hours a day for under 18, so they're not allowed to sit on computer games all day long. And then their TikTok version, I think it's got a slightly different version in China, but it is for under 18s. It's all educational. So it's science experiments. It's things that get kids' brains not only finding it exciting, because obviously they're still content creators on there, but they have to do it in an educational way. My only concern with things like this is I just feel we're too far gone, and how hard is it going to be to now reverse that damage? I think it will be really difficult. I'm very for it, but I think it will be hard.
I think it's the things of, like, you know, the algorithms where they're directing harmful content to children. Like, you know, the girl that died, and there was all that stuff about how to kill yourself. I mean, like, and self-harm, and it was all I mean, like, imagine if that was happening to your child, you would be in uproar. And part of it is also about having those robust checks on those algorithms. But part of me is just like, how have we even allowed that to happen?
Government's just so far behind. That's what it is. They're just ancient. The governments are still worried about, you know, thinking about the papers and TV.
Isn't it more about the money, though?
Yeah,
because
of course.
these companies, and it just kind of moves on to the piece in the Eye. I just thought I might move on to that one, because European commissioners fined Apple 428.8 million and Meta 170.96 million. Over some EU rules. Now, I would say governments are more worried about losing money from these companies.
Yeah, I mean, what happens when you can't find them anymore? Half a billion quid.
That doesn't mean anything. Apple made...
They'll carry on doing what they're doing. I mean, this is peanuts to these companies, right? You know,
300... what is it?
They'll go, that's what maybe a couple of months' work for us. We'll just carry on as we are. I mean, you know, that's the reality. You can't regulate your way to success on this. You need to have them on board with you, and by finding them, what you're actually doing is putting their backs up against you, and obviously... the President of the United States is not going to take that very kindly, I'll tell you that for sure.
Well, that's going to backfire.
They'll just put the prices up.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, the only thing that they would care about is kind of like brand impact. You know, like when people, you know, didn't go to Starbucks and they boycotted Starbucks. But the fact of the matter is that's unlikely to happen with social media platforms.
Of course it
because
is.
people have Facebook, people have Instagram, people, you know... I like TikTok.
They tried to shut TikTok down in America, and the outrage by young people was so severe. The parties were worried about losing elections because of it.
It is interesting that China themselves do it for their children.
Right, can we move on to the Pope in the Mirror, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, so obviously beautiful, beautiful pictures of people thousands of people paying their respects to the Pope, of course, passed away earlier in the week. But there is a slight negative spin to this story, because there is a lot of very upset, very religious people, very religious, but general people who want to pay their respects to the Pope, who are noticing people getting their phones out, snapping pictures of the man of course, laying in state with an open coffin, but then doing selfies with him. Which I just think is so out of touch to take a selfie with a dead body of a corpse. I mean, maybe that's just me.
Well, but isn't he there lying in state to give you a memory of him? So you've got
You could argue that.
And I don't see, you know, you're not doing it because, hey, look, you're probably doing it because he means something to you. They're queued for 8 hours or however long it is. So to have a picture, or your own personal picture, I think is...
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, look, the Pope had a profound impact on so many people's lives, and he was a fascinating Pope. You know, I don't know if you've seen the film The Two Popes and all about his life and Argentina and what he went through, you know, and just, you know, the profound things that he has spoken on, like forgiveness. I mean, I'm not a Catholic, but I actually was quite impacted by his life, and I think people are so profoundly impacted by him. I heard this quote about you have to be something about, you know, with the people, like that you can smell them, which sounds a bit strange, but what he was saying is amongst the poor. And I agree with what Nana's saying there. I think people, they want their thing of...
he put his coffin so it would be low so people could see him.
Yeah, that's kind of... It's slightly raised as well so people can see him from a distance.
I mean, I understand taking a picture.
Yeah.
I get that. I would agree with you, though, that I think taking a selfie doesn't sit right.
Well, there's also people with selfie sticks there, sort of like, and this is quite. I mean, there's thousands of people, so it's quite a lot of people in going in and out of the basilica. So I think there's just maybe for people who are very religious, might find that disrespectful. But I understand what you're saying as well, Nana. People want to remember that in their own way, and that's totally understandable.
I also think with a lot of these big things, I don't understand why people don't put their phones away actually and just have the moment.
Be in the moment.
Yeah, be in the moment.
And because this is not about putting it on X or Instagram, it's about saying, I was there and I've had this quiet moment.
But anyone could take a picture and not be in it. So how many pictures, when you've gone off somewhere, you've seen a picture and you're not in it and you've taken loads of pictures, it's more interesting if someone's in it.
It's like when I went to see
Right,
the Queen's husband and his coffin go past, and you remember the moment.
The moment of it.
Didn't get a photo, but...
We've got to break in and leave it there. Thank you both. Let's head over to Rome, actually. Here's Ellie.
Well, St Peter's Basilica had to extend their opening hours last night to cope with the demand of pilgrims and tourists who want to pay their respects to Pope Francis. The doors are open again today and thousands of people are flooding into the Basilica. I'll have all of the details from Rome, but here first is the weather with Honor Krizik.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head through today, it should be largely dry for many, but rather cloudy at times. This cloud thick enough to produce some drizzle, particularly across the southeast. The best of the brightness likely across the northwest. So quite a murky start for many, particularly across the southeast. Some drizzle, some fog at times. This will eventually clear through the morning, but some of that cloud sticking around, particularly across parts of the south. The best of any sunny breaks across western parts of Scotland, northwestern parts of England, and thicker clouds starting to push into western parts of Northern Ireland too, where we'll eventually start to see some rain. But in the sunny spells, feeling warm, highs of around 17 degrees Celsius, but always feeling that little bit chillier around eastern coasts. Then to end the day across Scotland, once again it should be a largely dry and clear end to the day. Some patchy cloud at times, particularly around Aberdeenshire, for example. Plenty of clear skies towards the west. But across Northern Ireland, starting to turn quite cloudy and murky, particularly around western coasts, where we'll eventually introduce some outbreaks of rain. Elsewhere across much of England and Wales, once again largely dry. We can't rule out the odd shower, particularly across Wales and parts of Devon and Cornwall. And for many, it should remain largely dry as we head through the overnight period. That's away from Northern Ireland, though. More and more outbreaks of rain moving through here. Could turn quite heavy at times, particularly across southern-facing hilly areas, and quite blustery around exposed coast too. So a very wet start here across Northern Ireland, but elsewhere largely dry. Perhaps some low cloud feeding in once again around eastern coasts. So for Northern Ireland in particular, it's going to be a very wet day. Do take care if you're travelling around. It's likely we'll see poor visibility, some quite disruptive travel conditions potentially. Eventually some more rain starting to move into western parts of Scotland, perhaps later into western parts of Wales and the southwest. But for many, once again, it's going to be largely dry. Quite cloudy at times, but in the sunnier breaks, still feeling warmer, and a lot warmer around eastern coasts as well, but quite cool across Northern Ireland under all the cloud and rain.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. In Warwickshire, motorists are facing a 10-minute delay on the A5 northbound between the junctions with the A444 and the M42 due to congestion. Normal traffic is expected later this morning. On the A470 southbound between Nantgarv and Corriton, traffic is heavily congested. Meanwhile, planned maintenance continues to cause restrictions on the A726 eastbound at the College Milton Rail Bridge. Please use caution when approaching. Stay up to date at gbnews.com for more travel news.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with sky roof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that wherever this motorhome takes you, it takes you there in style. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. The government risks a north-south divide as it considers charging southerners more for electricity.
Energy Secretary Ed Miliband is accused of toying with the postcode lottery system. Earlier, we got the response of the Shadow Financial Secretary, Gareth Davies.
I think it would be another example of how families are going to be paying more for their energy bills at a time when they're already increasing and they were promised that they would go down.
Could it, though, have disastrous consequences for our economy?
Donald Trump lashes out at Volodymyr Zelensky as he says Ukraine must cede territory or risk a never-ending war.
I think we have a deal with Russia. We have to get a deal with Zelensky, and I hope that Zelensky, I thought it might be easier to deal with Zelensky. So far, it's been harder.
Pope Francis lies in state in St. Peter's Basilica as preparations get underway for his funeral this weekend. Ellie is there for us.
Well, St. Peter's Basilica has had to extend their opening hours to try and cope with the demand of thousands of pilgrims and tourists who wish to pay their final respects to Pope Francis, who is now lying in state.
Reform UK leader Nigel Farage sits down with our political editor Christopher Hope in a GB News exclusive.
I don't think this plan really is acceptable because it just rewards Putin too much.
In commemoration of the 80th anniversary of VE Day, Royal Mail releases a very special set of stamps.
As the Liberal Democrats back a music ban on public transport, we're debating whether playing songs and podcasts out loud is a faux pas.
And in sport this morning, Freddie Flintoff has spoken candidly about the crash that nearly killed him.
I remember everything about it.
Freddie Flintoff has been in a crash.
It's so vivid.
His injuries are life-altering.
This is what I'm left with.
And also in sport, Arsenal's draw with Crystal Palace last night means that Liverpool now just need 1 point at home to Spurs on Sunday to win their 20th league title. And the controversy rages over Chris Eubank Jr.'s grudge fight with Conor Benn on Saturday. One of the biggest names in boxing, Frank Warren, will join us in about 20 minutes.
Hello there, good morning. A mostly dry day ahead, but cloudy at times with some heavy outbreaks of rain later. Stay tuned and I'll have all the details.
Just gone 8 o'clock, I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Nana Akweer, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Are you nervous about Frank Warren coming on? Just because he's such a big name?
I wasn't until now. Now I'm beginning to think, yeah.
I mean, if you upset him, he knows a lot of fellas.
Right.
That could do you over.
OK. Nana, how are you feeling about speaking to Frank Warren in about 20 minutes' time?
I'm looking forward to talking
Frank Warren's
Warren.
terrified speaking to Nana. That's right.
No, he wouldn't.
I can't wait to speak to him. Honestly, he's one of the biggest names in boxing. And this fight...
Isn't he just?
This fight on Saturday, because you've got the Eubank, Ben... the fathers that fought back in the 90s, now the sons are fighting. There's different weights. There's the egg controversy and the doping controversy. It's honestly, and it's actually not even for a title. So it's a very interesting thing to see.
Who's got the weight advantage?
It's going to be.
Ben.
Well, no, it's going to be. Usually, Eubank fights at a two levels above.
Really?
Conor Ben. So they're going to... And then there's this other clause, which is all about when they go for the weigh-in and then they will drink a lot to try... or to try and keep the weight down. And then it's all about putting the weight back on, and you can only put 10 pounds. Honestly, we will speak to Frank, who will...
How much money is there in it, though? Because
you could ask that. There's going to be a lot of money involved. But I tell you why, because it's so popular and it's pay-per-view. They're saying it's going to be one of the biggest pay-per-view fights. But it's all about the hype. Everybody gets hyped up by it. Think, I've got to see it. I've got to pay to see it.
They get paid whether they win or lose. It's the same amount, don't they? They agree an amount beforehand, and then that's it.
That's a lot of money. And that's why Chris... the father, Chris Eubank, is not speaking to the son because he thinks it's dangerous, but he says the son's only doing it for the money and he's really worried about it. Anyway, so many stories around the fight instead of the actual fight itself.
Doesn't it? All right, Paul, we'll look forward to that later on. Our main news this morning, and the Energy Secretary, Ed Miliband, is reportedly set to back a controversial shake-up of electricity pricing. They're calling it the postcode lottery energy system.
Yes, because under the zonal pricing plan, energy would be split into regions with bills based on supply and demand.
Now, that could see cheap bills in wind-rich areas like Scotland, but higher costs, potentially, for those further south.
But should your energy bill depend on where you live?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know you don't think it's a particularly good idea. I mean, it's just I can't help but think, well, for those people where it's going to be cheaper, is that, and if they've got wind farms and things on their doorstep, is that a suitable compensation for that? I don't know.
You know, but then there are power stations and things near other people's homes. I can't really see why they would put something in place that's going to be a bureaucratic nightmare. I don't know how they're going to administer it. It'll take ages, when really they should be focusing on things that will actually bring energy prices down.
It would be a bureaucratic nightmare. I mean, there's no getting away from that. Let's talk to our political correspondent, Catherine Forster, who's in Westminster. Morning, Catherine. What do you make of it all?
Yes, well, Ed Miliband is saying that they are looking at this carefully, but they haven't made any final decision, and they're aware of the difficulty of it. I suspect your reaction to this might depend really on where you live, because if you live in the north of England, where things like wind power are plentiful, this could mean that you end up paying less for your electricity. You might be quite happy about that, but if, on the other hand, you live in the south, where there's less access to that sort of power and you're likely to pay more, you're probably going to have a pretty different view. Now, the reason that they're looking at this is because basically the government have promised to get to net zero, decarbonise the electricity by 2030, and they're going to need huge upgrades to the national grid. Now, if they do this regional zoning, this regional pricing, that makes that easier and cheaper to do that. So Ed Miliband this morning has been talking about bringing down prices, about doing that in a way that's fair. But of course, you know, the government before they were elected said energy bills are going to come down by £300 per household. We've seen no sign of bills coming down at all. In fact, the opposite is currently happening. They are going up. And look, you know, the transition to net zero, for all that, you know, we do need to move away from fossil fuels, it's going to be incredibly difficult. Change is hard. Change is expensive. So, all these things are going to take time. And we do already have, some of the highest electricity prices in the developed world. And this is one of the reasons why it's really hard for industry here. It's one of the things that British Steel have cited as one of the big challenges for them. I was up in Scunthorpe a few weeks before all the interventions were necessary, and they were talking to me and saying how difficult it is, the cost of electricity in this country. But anyway, what the government is keen to talk about today is the fact that they are announcing £300 million more for offshore wind supply chains. They're also hosting this big energy summit today. 60 countries, 50 global energy companies meeting in London to talk about energy security.
It all feels a bit like window dressing, though, really. Did he mention any other plans in terms of how he can bring energy prices down by finding other energy sources, or was there anything about that? I mean, he's been talking about solar panels, and he was talking about solar panels, then he realised that a lot of them were made in China. Have we heard more about what he's planning to do there?
Well, the Energy Secretary is very committed to clean power. He says that it's the future, and he sees it as a great opportunity to bring growth and to bring jobs. But yes, you're right, Nana. Of course, the Chinese produce a lot of the tech that we need for clean energy. And some things are produced by slave labour with Uyghur Muslims in China. Now, the government have announced that they're going to make sure, basically, that there is no slave labour in their supply chains for solar panels and so on. That's a new announcement. But let's see what comes out of this energy summit. It's going to be running over the next 2 days. Ursula von der Leyen from the European Commission will be there. She will also be meeting with the Prime Minister later. No doubt they're going to be talking about Ukraine and Donald Trump and his latest words on tariffs and on giving Ukrainian territory over to Russia.
OK, Catherine, thank you. Well, on the proposed changes to the energy sector, a spokesperson for the Department of Energy Security and Net Zero said, in an unstable world, the only way to guarantee our energy security and protect consumers from future energy price shocks is moving towards homegrown power. We're considering reform to Britain's market arrangements, ensuring these focus on protecting bill payers and encouraging investment. We will provide an update in due course.
Yeah, it will be interesting to hear what that will be. But, of course, thousands of mourners have been pouring into St Peter's Basilica to pay their respects to Pope Francis, whose body is now lying in state ahead of his funeral.
Well, the Basilica remained open past its normal hours yesterday to accommodate the crowds and the long queues of mourners.
GB News' Ellie Costello is still in Rome for us. Ellie, what more can you tell us?
Yes, good morning to you, Nana and Stephen. And St Peter's Basilica had to extend their opening hours last night. It actually didn't shut until 5 o'clock this morning, where the doors were shut for just 2 hours before they opened again at 7 a.m. local time. I think even the Vatican has been struck by the sheer demand, the thousands of people, the tourists, the pilgrims who wish to come and pay their respects to the late Pope Francis. In fact, 19,500 people made their way through the doors of St Peter's Basilica in the first 8 hours yesterday. So that just gives you a sense of the number of people who wish to come and say their final goodbyes. Well, one of the people in the queue yesterday was a British tourist who was actually here in St Peter's Square for Pope Francis's final public appearance at Easter Mass on Sunday, and he reflected with me on the late Pope's papacy.
Attended the Sunday Mass, I attended the prayers on Monday. I haven't seen as big crowds yet as of today. As a leader of the Catholic Church and the Catholics, he was phenomenal. I think that he opened up, he spoke a lot about love and how to be more humane to other people. He opened the church to divorcees, to homosexuals. So he revolutionised the church in that way. But on the other hand, in terms of politics, I don't think he fully understood the dynamics of European politics. For instance, like when we take, for example, the war in Ukraine with Putin's invasion, there I believe that he could have had a different approach. He could have tried harder to understand the geopolitical situation. And so from that political side, I think it wasn't a great pontiff. But on the religious side of things, I think it was phenomenal. I think we should continue in this direction. If you think about it, then the church needs to open up more. There's a lot of people who are pushed away because the church is closed, it's very conservative, it rejects various people, you get too many judgmental people. The church has to stop being judgmental. Francis was a pope who wasn't judgmental about other people and how they were, and I think that would be a great pope.
Well, obviously that British tourist was a very devout Catholic, but we have been hearing reports this morning, Stephen and Nana, of people inside St. Peter's Basilica who are going live on TikTok and taking selfies with the corpse of the late Pope Francis. So not everybody is being as respectful as is demanded in this situation, obviously upsetting pilgrims who see this St. Peter's Basilica behind me as one of the holiest sites in their Catholic faith.
No, indeed. OK, Ellie, back to you a little bit later on. For now, thank you. The idea of streaming live from seeing... I mean, come on. Who would do that?
But look, he had his coffin angled so people could see him. He would have known the environment that he is in terms of social media. Things have changed. We don't behave the way we did many years ago. People have evolved, and the way they communicate is in this way. So I don't... As long as it's respectful and you're not denigrating something like that whilst you're in this footage, then I think it's OK.
I don't know. It just doesn't seem right to me.
You know, obviously make judgments on where...
If someone did that at a funeral of a loved one of mine, I'd be quite upset, I think. And
It's
that's
interesting.
basically what it is.
It's interesting because recently I went to a funeral and somebody wanted to take a little picture and, you know, film a bit of parts of it, and some people got very upset about that. And it wasn't, you know, it wasn't gratuitous or out of the way. It was just a little memory for that person. And, you know, other people are up in arms, and it's, well, everyone grieves in a different way.
Well, they do, but I think we're a bit more old-fashioned on these things. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Les, what do you think?
Fashioned, maybe. Old, yes.
Old. Definitely old. All right, let's get the check on the weather for you today. Here's Honor.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head through today, it should be largely dry for many, but rather cloudy at times. This cloud thick enough to produce some drizzle, particularly across the southeast. The best of the brightness likely across the northwest. So quite a murky start for many, particularly across the southeast. Some drizzle, some fog at times. This will eventually clear through the morning, but some of that cloud sticking around, particularly across parts of the south. The best of any sunny breaks across western parts of Scotland, northwestern parts of England, and thicker clouds starting to push into western parts of Northern Ireland too, where we'll eventually start to see some rain. But in the sunny spells, feeling warm, highs of around 17 degrees Celsius, but always feeling that little bit chillier around eastern coasts. Then to end the day across Scotland, once again it should be a largely dry and clear end to the day. Some patchy cloud at times, particularly around Aberdeenshire, for example. Plenty of clear skies towards the west. But across Northern Ireland, starting to turn quite cloudy and murky, particularly around western coasts, where we'll eventually introduce some outbreaks of rain. Elsewhere across much of England and Wales, once again largely dry, though we can't rule out the odd shower, particularly across Wales and parts of Devon and Cornwall. And for many, it should remain largely dry as we head through the overnight period. That's away from Northern Ireland, though. More and more outbreaks of rain moving through here. Could turn quite heavy at times, particularly across southern-facing hilly areas, and quite blustery around exposed coast too. So a very wet start here across Northern Ireland, but elsewhere largely dry. Perhaps some low cloud feeding in once again around eastern coasts. So for Northern Ireland in particular, it's going to be a very wet day. Do take care if you're travelling around. It's likely we'll see poor visibility, some quite disruptive travel conditions potentially. Eventually some more rain starting to move into western parts of Scotland, perhaps later into western parts of Wales and the southwest. But for many, once again, it's going to be largely dry. Quite cloudy at times, but in the sunnier breaks, still feeling warmer, and a lot warmer around eastern coasts as well, but quite cool across Northern Ireland under all the cloud and rain.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Right, still to come. Does it annoy you if someone plays music out loud on public transport? Turns out you're not the only one. We're debating whether it should be banned next. This is GB News Breakfast.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
I can now speak with the founder of the blog Armed Forces Foundation, Colin Easterway. Colin, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have your company. First of all, I always start, you're a former paratrooper, right? Thank you for your service. Tell us about your foundation, your charity, the work it does, and how people can come in and help you.
We started in 2020 during the COVID pandemic when mental health was at the forefront of everybody's mind, and a lot of veterans in our area were finding themselves homeless. So we quickly adapted and we made a crisis prevention centre and started addressing homelessness along with veterans' mental health, giving them a place where they can reach out and get the vital support that they need. Since then, we've registered as a charity. We thought by now we would have been funded and maybe supported by our local authority, but that hasn't happened 5 years in. The new national pathway for Op4 to choose of veterans' mental health, wrong veterans' housing, along with Op Courage for veterans' mental health. They also refer into us homeless veterans on a regular basis, but we haven't received any operational funding from them either. Also, with the level of referrals increasing every week, national charities, the big charities, the Armed Forces charities, Royal British Legion, Help for Heroes, constantly sending us homeless veterans to us, has put the level of output so high that we've run out of funding. Those major charities and those other organisations don't send any funding. They continue to send homeless veterans to us, which we have to crisis manage and try and find solutions. We have an ethos where no veteran leaves our office without a safe place to sleep that night, and we stand by that ethos. The larger charities have got onto that and start firing them into us, so we're really struggling.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Right, good morning to you. It is our biggest giveaway to date. It's your chance to win a motorhome worth £67,000 and £5,000 in tax-free cash. Imagine all the places you could go. Where would you go first?
Scotland.
Scotland's lovely.
Scotland, up to the Highlands somewhere.
Lovely. Loch Lomond.
Oh, Loch Lomond's beautiful.
Or what about
on the Bonnie Banks?
Isle of Arran.
Oh, no, that would be nice.
Holy Island, on the East Coast.
See, I quite fancy going to the Isles of Scilly, actually. I know that's in entirely the other direction. But I don't know if you could take a motorhome on the ferry.
Don't know.
Isle of St Mary's, Isle of Scilly, I want to go to.
Well, you're not going to win anyway.
No, I'm not allowed to enter.
But you could be our biggest winner to date. Here are all the details that you need.
Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with sky roof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that wherever this motorhome takes you, it takes you there in style. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Best of luck to you. Now, have you ever got on public transport and been really annoyed by someone who's playing music or a video or whatever out loud?
Yeah, I hate it when that happens, but it turns out, of course, you're not the only one. The Lib Dems are proposing a fine of up to £1,000 for this faux pas.
So, what do you think about that? Well, let's talk to etiquette expert Liz Brewer and Director of Public Affairs at the Adam Smith Institute, Maxwell Marlowe, who both join us now. I mean, there's no doubt it's a little bit rude, whichever way you look at it, Maxwell. But should we be enforcing this in law?
Well, look, I'm totally in favour of having a ban on people playing, very loud music. It's antisocial. It's part of actually the bylaws. When you look at littering or antisocial behaviour on, the tube or the bus, so that's there. But here's your issue, fundamentally, right, which is that who's going to enforce it? Nobody is. We don't have enough enforcement officers. We can see already TfL fare violations are at 4% of all the trips on the network. There's no one to enforce it. So you're just piling on, new enforcements for overworked staff, even if it makes us feel better. So I think it's a totally useless law. And I think the Lib Dems should try proposing to stuff like tax cuts and, speaking up against, the terrible way in which the economy is going. I think this is just a PR stunt.
Liz, but surely, what's your take on it? Because surely there might be some instances where people may need to listen to something out loud rather than in their ears, for whatever reason that might be. What's your take on it?
Morning, Steve. Good morning, Nana.
Morning.
Fair enough, but in their own space and in their own time. And, I totally agree. It's all very well saying we're going to do this, we're going to do that. How are you going to enforce it? At the moment, we're terrified of saying boo to a goose. Somebody insults you on the underground, on national rail or wherever. You stay mum because you think you're going to be roughed up or you're going to be attacked. We have lost control of looking after pedestrians and people travelling around. We're frightened of actually standing up for ourselves. So I don't know how the Lib Dems are going to enforce it. I totally agree. You've got to be able to control this and do it in such a way that it won't happen again. By the way, I gather most of the time they're doing this on their iPhones, or maybe they should be confiscated. But who's going to do that? Who's going to enforce it?
What about freedom of choice, Maxwell? I mean, look, we might not like it if the person next to us wants to watch a YouTube video with no earphones, but they're free to do it, aren't they?
Well, technically they are, to be honest. I always travel around. I've got these headphones, or I've got, this set here. I'm very happy with people, wanting to make a bit of a choice, and it could be a bit louder if they want. They can have conversations, but sometimes you come across on the bus people playing these very loud, annoying TikTok videos. You're thinking, what on earth? So I do stand up and I do say, hey, do you mind turning that down? It works most of the time. Sometimes they just give you a bit of a weird look, or they don't speak English, they don't really understand. One of my friends even carries around super cheap headphones, plug-in headphones you can buy on Amazon just to hand out. So I do think there are ways around this. And sure, again, you can have a bit of freedom of speech. That's fine. But I think freedom of speech, and then there's kind of yelling in your ear. And I think courts would have a different view of that if you ended up suing them. So it's a bit of a weird debate, but I think overall we can see that it is a bit of a public nuisance. So freedom only goes so far, I think, in aspects like this. You don't want it overtaking your freedom for peace, to have a bit of peace and quiet.
All right, well, listen, thank you for your thoughts. That is Liz Brewer. She's an etiquette expert and also director for the Adam Smith Institute, Maxwell Marlowe. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's... I wouldn't hit the point of buying cheap earphones to hand out to people who are... I just think it's manners. It's basic manners, isn't it, that you shouldn't do that in front of people?
Perhaps that's what people need, more training in manners, rather than the Liberal Democrats going around it the other way, which is actually trying to create something that's totally unenforceable. But that's nonsense.
There is an issue with older people, though, who, you know, you're putting the phones on speaker mode when they're having a phone call, and they get into the habit of doing it often, especially if they get a little bit hard of hearing, and they sometimes do it in public places.
Yeah.
And not realise, it's happened to people I know, and they don't quite realise what's going on. They forget.
But if there's a little old lady or a little old
guy... You can't be fining them £1,000 because they've automatically just gone on speakerphone.
And what about the people who talk really loud on their mobile phones? I mean, that's pretty offensive as well, isn't it?
Well, yes. I would agree.
I'd just fine them as well.
Fine everybody.
But the Liberal Democrats, yet again, another ridiculous policy that they're never, ever going to enforce, because they're never, ever going to be in power, ever, by the looks of things.
Well, not at the moment, it doesn't look like, but you never know.
Give me a moment when they have been, apart from in a coalition.
Well, coalition, it's still in power, isn't it?
Not really. They had no power. Even with the whole student fees, they couldn't even do that.
No, I know, but... Well, the Lib Dems would disagree with you on that one, and you never know what's going to happen in the world of politics. Who knows where we'll be in 15 years? Well... I don't know, might be a Lib Dem resurgence, you never know.
I think we do.
Never know.
If you are travelling to work or school, here's the traffic and travel update. And don't forget to stay with us on digital and on radio.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. On the A470 southbound from Nantgarv to Corriton, expect congestion due to high traffic volumes. In Surrey, drivers on the M25 clockwise between Junction 5 and Junction 6 should be prepared for delays owing to a broken-down vehicle with 1 out of 4 lanes closed. Road users are advised to approach with caution. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Still to come, Freddie Flintoff has been talking about that crash on Top Gear.
I remember everything about it.
Freddie Flintoff has been in a crash.
It's so vivid. His injuries are life-altering. This is what I'm left with.
Well, we'll bring you more on that with Paul in a moment.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
please bring us up to date.
Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
8:33, Paul's here with the sport. Morning, Mr. Coit.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm very good. We're thinking, how are you, by the way? I don't want to be rude, because I hate it when people go, how are you? And you go, fine. And they go, and?
Yeah, no, it's all right.
Is there anything else coming in my direction?
Marvellous, thank you.
Right, good.
I'm all right as well.
Well, I was going to come to... I know you're all right.
You didn't bother asking.
No, I was going to come round to you. I was going to come round to asking you.
Oh, don't upset Nana.
Nana.
I wouldn't if I were you.
Are you a boxing fan?
I do love a good old fight, yes.
I know, but are you a boxing fan?
Yes, I am, actually. I am.
Yeah. Conor Benn against Chris Eubank Jr. Now, this is the big fight.
Nigel Benn's son and Chris Eubank's son.
That's right. So bad blood. I was going to try and sort of avoid bad blood. See, the thing is that they're probably friends after all these years. It was over 30 years ago. But the thing is, the two that aren't friends is Chris and his son. Now, they've fallen out. So Chris Eubank used to be in Eubank Jr.'s corner. He would be there helping him. And Nigel Benn is. Nigel lives in Australia now. So he's coming over for Conor. So he's going to be in the corner, but Chris Eubank isn't. Now, the problem is that Chris feels that this is dangerous. Now, he was involved in a very controversial, I say controversial, but it was an unfortunate fight with Michael Watson back in the 90s, if you remember that.
Yeah.
So he has, and also he says that his brother also fighting affected him, and he saw him die years later from what boxing did to him. So he feels very uncomfortable about his son fighting. And also the other part is this rehydration clause, because you have... stop me if I start getting overly complicated with this. It's because Chris Eubank Jr. would fight at a higher weight than Conor Benn. So they're meeting somewhere in the middle. So whereas Chris Eubank would be more likely to make a weight and then rehydrate to get back to his normal weight, they're actually stopping that. They're saying that there's a £10 rehydration clause, so he can't actually go above a certain weight, which he would be more comfortable at. Now, the long and short of that is that would probably make him weaker. And then therefore, the dad is saying this is just not sensible. He doesn't want any part of it, and he is very worried about his son.
Is it because he's
fallen out with him?
So which one's heavier then? Is Eubank So Eubank's heavier.
They will be a similar.
He's heavier, but potentially weaker.
But he's got a 60-40 split over 18 million, though, hasn't he? That's what they're reporting.
That's right. Yeah, there's the 60-40 split. Now he's the older of the two fighters. This is Chris Eubank Jr. And so he's going to be earning slightly more than Conor Benn is, but he's also very uncomfortable because he's saying that my son is just fighting for the money. But then again, why else would they fight anyway?
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, it's bizarre. But, I mean, this is a fight that's already been mired in controversy. There was the drugs issue, what was that, 18 months ago or something like that?
Exactly, because the fight was going to happen in 2022. And there was the drugs incident, the doping incident that affected Conor Benn, whereas Conor was saying, no, you know, I don't know what this is. And he was found, you know, he was tested twice for clomiphene, which turns out I think the excuse that came through, I say excuse, whether this is actually true or not, was the fact that it had too many eggs and that the eggs were infected, and that was where that came from.
It's either eggs or strawberry cheesecake.
With the strawberry cheesecake was still our favourite with Camilla Valieva. But as far as the fight goes, now we're going to speak to Frank Warren at 9:15 this morning. Yeah. So it's going to be great to speak to him because he will know exactly what's going on. But he doesn't actually have any skin in the game this time because he's one of the world's most famous promoters, but it's not him, it's Eddie Hearn. So it's not him involved in this. Yeah. Although Chris Eubank Jr. has also said some pretty nasty things about Frank Warren in the past. Really? So Frank very much would want Conor Benn, I imagine, to win the fight after what's been said.
So why is it we have this fascination with boxing, though?
It's, you know what, there is that fascination, but the thing is, so much of it is about the hype that goes with it. And the hype goes back... We go back to Muhammad Ali. Oh, you know, and you remember how he would always be, and people would either love him or hate him. It makes people interested. And the thing is, with this fight as well, it's not as if it's for a title. So there's no actual title at stake, not like the old days ago, you know, this is going to be the biggest world title fight we've ever seen. It's a grudge match between two Brits, and it's going to be held at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. And you know, it's gone through the roof. The tickets sold out like this. The pay-per-view has gone crazy. So it's always the hype around it that builds everybody's interest. So the day before, you find this is something I've got to see.
You've got an all-access pass, don't you?
I do.
So...
Really?
You're going to get in to see that. Of course, but he does.
I'm fighting actually on the undercard.
Are you on the undercard?
Yeah.
So you're going to be able to watch?
Yeah.
I don't stand a chance. Not a chance.
All right, lovely. Look, we've just heard actually that Frank, there's some technical issues, as was ever thus.
Right.
He's going to be on the show tomorrow.
Good enough for me. OK, Frank tomorrow. We can wait for Frank. That's fine.
We can. Meanwhile, we've got the papers with Alex Armstrong and Susie Stride heading your way. But before that, if you want a bit of holiday sun, here's the forecast for the top European destinations.
I hope it doesn't rain.
Don't worry about it.
It'll spoil our holiday.
Relax, we're totally covered.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
An unsettled spell of weather over the next few days across southeastern parts of Europe. Heavy showers and thunderstorms, but elsewhere mostly settled, plenty of sunshine. The odd shower affecting parts of Greece, also the Adriatic coastline. These could be heavy and thundery, but as we shift our way further west, mostly settled thanks to the Azores high, plenty of sunshine, though it just could be quite breezy at times across Madeira and Tenerife. The heavy showers are set to continue into Saturday, but from Sunday, lots of sunshine and feeling warm in that sunshine too.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
please bring us up to date.
Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
So we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Ranjit Mathrani. Ranjit, welcome to the show. You're being booted out by the Crown Estate. What's going on?
Well, the answer is I don't know, because they keep on giving different reasons on different occasions with one simple objective, to get us out of the premises. And the irony is that 1 year before they decided not to terminate our lease, they actually invited us to take over more space on the first floor of the restaurant. And then they dramatically changed their mind. I'm sorry about the background noise, I'm the evidence. They dramatically changed their mind after a blocked drain, which they blamed on us, which wiped out their electrics. And they claimed they needed space 11 square meters of the space for their entrance. On other occasions, they claim they need the space in order to do the refurbishment works. Neither of those arguments are very convincing. They could have a reception space if they wanted to on the first floor, and they can work around us, as many landlords have done in refurbishing the offices.
So, Ranjit, if I may interject, Ranjit, if I may interject, we don't have a great deal of time left. Ostensibly, they're trying to hike up your rent, and you think they use a backdoor method of doing so to get you out. You're an institution in London.
We are indeed an institution. Not only that, we are a living institution. You know, we were invited to the cater for the Queen on 2 occasions, but in Paris, she in fact agreed to have dinner with us before COVID struck.
GB News.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
8:43, the front pages now, and the Mail leads on Trump's attack on Ukraine overnight. He's accused Zelensky of derailing the peace talks.
The Daily Express quotes Kemi Badenoch in PMQ's yesterday, where she accused the Prime Minister of lacking the gall to express his true feelings about the Supreme Court gender ruling.
The Sun has Freddie Flintoff opening up about that crash in a new documentary.
The Daily Star headlines Plunder Haul as Oasis fans lose £2 million in scam ticket sales.
Let's talk to Alex Armstrong and Susie Stride once again. Morning, you two.
Good morning.
To the Sun, Alex. Ed's meddling in our Lecky bills.
What is he not meddling in, this bloke? Honestly, more net zero madness. So get this, if postcode lotteries weren't already a problem in this country with your NHS and many other things, nurseries, everything else, now you're going to have a lottery on your electricity bills, because supposedly the energy...
anyway, isn't it?
Well, that's true. But we're looking to formalise this into this new sort of classism, where if you live in the South, as part of the Energy Secretary's plans, to create zonal pricing, which is based on supply and demand of energy. If you live in the South, you're going to be the hardest hit people with energy prices. And that's all down to what I can understand so far as whether you've got some sort of net zero incentive in your area, like a wind farm or something like that, which will lower your energy bills. Now, obviously, this is causing outrage.
But it all gets fed in. This is what I don't understand with this. It all gets fed into the grid.
Yeah.
So it sort of shouldn't matter where you live in terms of whether there's net zero being fed into your system.
Yeah, it's strange. I mean, look, what I think is good is this whole thing of, like, if you're having pylons being built in your back garden, which when I saw, that maybe you would get some money off your bill, and I think that's fair enough, because it's why should you put up with these pylons in your back garden?
I think they do something like that anyway, so you do get some form of compensation in some way, but that's...
Yeah.
You don't get much, I think.
No, it's not much.
Yeah. No, I think, look, I think anything that could end up being, you know, hitting hard-hit families is not good. I mean, obviously what they're trying to do here is, you know, make the whole system more sustainable, more efficient and,
not really.
better.
In what way is that dealing with the sustainability issue? It's not really at all, is it? It's just saying that you've got wind farms and all sorts of solar panels in this area, so you'll pay less. But where's the sustainability issue? How are they going to support that?
Yeah, well, exactly. That's why I don't know if it, you know, it is a good idea. And I think, you know, there is a bit of an unfairness there, isn't there? If you live in a certain area, you end up paying far less even in another.
Because it's saying it's supply and demand. This is what the reports. We don't know the policy yet, but it's saying it's based on supply and demand. So if you're in an area built-up city, of course, demand is going to be higher and supply is going to be lower, because how are you getting your energy? So this is a really quite classist in my view. It's typical classism, but there we go.
Why don't you have a chat with your friend Ed, Susie, and just explain to him how this is a nonsense non-starter? Once again, just like the 22 billion carbon capture scheme.
While you can ponder that, Susie, can we talk about Robert Jenrick.
Oh,
no, Robert Jenrick.
yeah.
Does he need to be reined in by Kemi Badenoch?
I think he does. My day, she is the leader. You know, you guys can have your own opinions on how she's doing, but you know, she's the leader. There's a reason why the other the Conservative members didn't choose him. You know, I'm not a fan of Robert Jenrick for a whole lot of reasons, including the dodgy stuff with Richard Desmond back in the day over the Westway Printworks sites. But I do think, and I mean, look, he's never going to be leader,
Why?
and he probably needs to just wake up and smell the coffee.
He clearly thinks
And
he will.
we both think it should be James Cleverly, don't we?
No, I didn't say. I said I think it would be James Cleverly. I don't think it should be.
I'm actually a James Cleverly fan.
I think if the Tories had another election of leader tomorrow, he would probably. I do think Cleverly would win because I mean he only lost out due to some mathematical problems. But not saying, I actually very like. Well, yeah, the Tories. I mean, they fudged the numbers, didn't they? Unfortunately, but you know. Robert Jenrick is doing the job of leader of the opposition at the moment, in my opinion. I think Kemi's had a couple of good weeks because she's talking about issues that she knows well, like the women's issue. But on the whole, Robert Jenrick does look like the leader of the opposition in the Tory party. That's the reality. And whether Kemi likes it or not, she should be taking a leaf out of his book and doing what he's doing because he's doing a very good job and he's on the detail and he's talking about issues that people like. And this is a victory for the Conservative Party. And without Robert Jenrick, where would the Tories stand right now?
Well, to be honest, lots of people haven't forgiven them for the nonsense.
Well,
quite right,
quite right.
4 years.
And they'd be right to think that.
They're just moving the deck chairs of the Titanic as far as I'm concerned.
It's not that what he's saying obviously isn't common sense. He's basically saying, look, you know, if there isn't some sort of coalition here, Labour can... And obviously Labour did.
Yeah, but why would you want to join with them after the disaster that ensued and what they've left as a legacy where you end up with a party like the Labour Party now running this country into the ground? If they had done a good job, then they would still be in power. And it was embarrassing.
Oh, well...
Yeah, well, look, I mean, I'm going to agree with you. I don't think they did a good job over 14 years. We agree on that. But, you know, obviously what he's pointing out is reform are rising through the ranks, and this is a big problem for the Conservatives. Yeah. You know, I don't think he'll ever be leader. I don't think he ever should be leader. And I think she's right to say rein it in.
All right. Alex, in the Times... Now, you have to help me with this. Because it's a landmark trial in the Times that has found that taking very small amounts of peanuts, if you've got a peanut allergy, will help get over that thing. How is this a landmark trial? Because we've known this about allergens for donkey's years. You have little tiny bits of things and you become immune to it.
Somewhat of vaccines do as well. I mean, it's just like similar sort of things. They give you a small bit of it and they let you antibodies. But anyway, so apparently this is the first time. It's the first time approach known as oral immune therapy, OK, and it involves a study of 21 adults between the age of 18 and 40 who were given small amounts of nuts who are deathly allergic to them. And apparently it's helped them manage their allergies. Yeah. So, you know, who would have thought it? Bit of science.
Well, anyone.
That's what I You're right.
Well, somebody did think about it a long time ago, and it's not a landmark, is it?
But I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's a little bit bonkers because you think if you have I guess maybe the thought here is if you have a deathly peanut allergy, you just wouldn't go near nuts.
I mean, I haven't read the details of this, but I imagine it is a sort of scientifically created, tiny, minuscule amount that they must be having.
Yeah, maybe.
They're not licking a peanut.
But it's important, isn't it? Because it is a massive problem. There's that terrible case of that teenage girl who died on a plane and her father watched. I mean, it's just horrific, you know, and heartbreaking.
That was a sesame allergy, wasn't it? Sesame seeds or something that was, or sesame oil that was in the...
Well, to answer your question on how much they're giving, because this is quite interesting, actually, 0.8 milligrams of peanut flour mixed with food, then 1.5 milligrams 30 minutes later, followed by 3 milligrams 30 minutes later after that. It's quite lengthy. It's the equivalent of 1/100th of a peanut.
Yeah.
So it's very minuscule.
Well,
it's very, very tiny amount, so you couldn't do it yourself. But it's a way forward because they do reckon all these allergies have come up. The fact we're not exposed to...
Well, exactly. It's this whole thing of, like, sanitising everything and our children.
Clean.
You know, like, we weren't like that in the 80s. I won't tell you some of the things we used to pick up off the street and wear.
I'll tell you, I can tell you what, I used to peel off chewing gum from the floor when I was about 5 or 6. I did. You did the same thing.
Same thing. Wash it under the towel.
No, I didn't wash it, no. I just see a good bit and I thought, that's a good bit. And then I literally pop it in my mouth.
I kid you not.
Not for me.
I kid you not. We used to do the same.
Fair enough.
We used to do the exact same.
Essex.
I'm East London.
Well, I grew up in Essex, though. I grew up in Essex after moving from the
It's
castle.
obviously the east side of people,
East
you know, we're rough
side.
and tough. But I bet you've got a good immune system, because I do.
Not really, no.
Oh, OK. We're not going to suggest that to our viewers.
There's more chuddy outside on the street. I used to go around and hoover up the drinks in nightclubs.
That's a good one. That's one I can get behind.
What about this noise? Mobile phone users could face a ban on transport when they actually play the things out loud.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm for this. You know, I think it can be an absolute nightmare for people, like really antisocial. Happened to me the other day, and I just think, you know, even if it does deter some people, and I heard the guy before saying, well, who's going to enforce this? The point is you start putting those posters up, even if it deters some, it is worth it for people's peace of mind. I just think it's such a selfish act.
It is.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The whole carriage having to listen to...
It is really selfish. I think it's terrible. However, it is the enforcement issue.
Isn't it?
I mean, is it just, you know, it's got no teeth, has it?
Well, the point is at the moment, they haven't tried. There hasn't been a post that said £1,000 fine. Let's put those out there, you know.
Yeah.
But anything that could deter it a bit, anything could bring it down a bit, I think is important.
No, I do agree. A bit of deterrence is important. I do think the enforcement thing is impossible. We can barely get police officers as it is. We're cutting back on them, actually, aren't we? I do also think there's a bit of an irony. The Liberal Democrats are proposing... In the name, Liberal Democrats are proposing laws that restrict your liberties. But, you know, there's always irony with the Liberal Dems and Crypt Dems, in my opinion, but there we go.
Let's finish off with a bit of Gladiators. In the Star.
Star, one of my favourite papers, is absolutely fantastic. Yeah, they have supposedly found lion bite marks on the skeletons of Romans in a Roman cemetery, and I had to reread this because I would think, you think this is in Italy, right? Gladiators in the Colosseum. It's in York. In York. So someone's died, and obviously with a bite mark of a lion on them or something like that. It's the first physical evidence, supposedly, of them actually battling with lions in what must have been not just Colosseums, but in local theatres and things like that as well.
Does it say how old the skull is or anything like that?
Well, this is 1,800-year-old cemetery, so quite an old.
Wow.
Yes.
It's fascinating, isn't it? I think those little insights into history I always think are fascinating.
Yeah. Even here in Britain, of course.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think it, would you? Yeah. Right, you two, it's been a joy.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. See you very soon, no doubt. We're going to be heading to Rome in just a couple of minutes as the Pope lies in state for a second day. Ellie is there for us.
Well, in the past 23 hours, almost 50,000 people have come through the doors of St. Peter's Basilica to see Pope Francis lying in state. In fact, the Basilica has had to extend its opening hours in order to cope with the demand of tourists and pilgrims who wish to pay their respects. I'll have all of the details from Rome ahead of the weather with Honor Critic.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head through today, it should be largely dry for many, but rather cloudy at times. This cloud thick enough to produce some drizzle, particularly across the southeast. The best of the brightness likely across the northwest. So quite a murky start for many, particularly across the southeast. Some drizzle, some fog at times. This will eventually clear through the morning, but some of that cloud sticking around, particularly across parts of the south. The best of any sunny breaks across western parts of Scotland, northwestern parts of England, and thicker clouds starting to push into western parts of Northern Ireland too, where we'll eventually start to see some rain. But in the sunny spells, feeling warm, highs of around 17 degrees Celsius, but always feeling that little bit chillier around eastern coasts. Then to end the day across Scotland, once again it should be a largely dry and clear end to the day. Some patchy cloud at times, particularly around Aberdeenshire, for example. Plenty of clear skies towards the west. But across Northern Ireland, starting to turn quite cloudy and murky, particularly around western coasts, where we'll eventually introduce some outbreaks of rain. Elsewhere across much of England and Wales, once again largely dry. We can't rule out the odd shower, particularly across Wales and parts of Devon and Cornwall. And for many, it should remain largely dry as we head through the overnight period. That's away from Northern Ireland, though. More and more outbreaks of rain moving through here. Could turn quite heavy at times, particularly across southern-facing hilly areas, and quite blustery around exposed coast too. So a very wet start here across Northern Ireland, but elsewhere largely dry. Perhaps some low cloud feeding in once again around eastern coasts. So for Northern Ireland in particular, it's going to be a very wet day. Do take care if you're travelling around. It's likely we'll see poor visibility, some quite disruptive travel conditions potentially. Eventually some more rain starting to move into western parts of Scotland, perhaps later into western parts of Wales and the southwest. But for many, once again, it's going to be largely dry. Quite cloudy at times, but in the sunnier breaks, still feeling warmer, and a lot warmer around eastern coasts as well, but quite cool across Northern Ireland under all the cloud and rain.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Due to a broken down vehicle, the A4900 public transport link is restricted southbound. Warwickshire drivers are advised to approach with caution. Congestion is reported southbound on the A470 from Nantgarve to Corriton. In Salford, the M62 westbound has a broken down vehicle between junction 12 and junction 11, closing one of 4 lanes. Stay up to date at gbnews.com for more travel news.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with sky roof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that wherever this motorhome takes you, it takes you there in style. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. The government risks a north-south divide as it considers charging southerners more for electricity.
Yes, Energy Secretary Ed Miliband is accused of toying with a postcode lottery system. Earlier, we got the response of Shadow Financial Secretary Gareth Davies.
I think it would be another example of how families are going to be paying more for their energy bills at a time when they're already increasing and they were promised that they would go down.
So, could it actually have disastrous consequences for the economy?
Donald Trump lashes out at Volodymyr Zelensky as he says Ukraine must cede territory or risk a never-ending war.
I think we have a deal with Russia. We have to get a deal with Zelensky, and I hope that Zelensky, I thought it might be easier to deal with Zelensky. So far, it's been harder.
Pope Francis lies in state in St. Peter's Basilica as preparations get underway for his funeral. Ellie is in Rome for us.
Almost 50,000 people have made their way through the doors of St. Peter's Basilica to pay their respects to the late Pope Francis. But not everybody is being respectful, with some people taking selfies and going live on TikTok with the corpse of the late pontiff.
Sits down with our political editor Christopher Hope in a GB News exclusive.
I don't think this plan really is acceptable because it just rewards Putin too much.
Now, in commemoration of the 80th anniversary of VE Day, Royal Mail is releasing a very special set of stamps.
Freddie Flintoff has opened up about the Top Gear crash that nearly killed him in a new documentary.
I remember everything about it.
Freddie Flintoff has been in a crash.
It's so vivid. His injuries are life-altering. This is what I'm left with.
Hello there, good morning. A mostly dry day ahead, but cloudy at times with some heavy outbreaks of rain later. Stay tuned and I'll have all the details.
It's just gone 9 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
I'm Nana Akua and this is GB News Breakfast.
You a bit of a stargazer.
What do you mean, as in looking up to the stars?
Yeah. Do you like it?
I just can't be doing that. I've got
Can't
so
be
many
bothered.
things to be doing. I mean, you haven't got children, have you?
No.
I haven't got time to gaze into the stars.
Ah, I see, this is it. Well, look, if you are a stargazer, tomorrow there'll be something sort of special. Venus, Saturn and a crescent moon will make a smiley face in
Really?
the sky tomorrow. I mean, it's a bit...
Oh, that's quite cool, actually. I might look for that.
Well, it's a bit of a con job because, of course, the crescent moon is that way, so you've got to squint and turn your head that way to see
It's
it.
like a sort of like, all right, darling,
Yeah.
sort of side mouth.
But anyway, it'd be quite nice to see if you can.
Well, it might be a
picture
crescent
it.
moon like this. You can't have a crescent moon that way, can't
That
you?
way, no. It's
You can.
that way.
I'm sure I've seen the moon where you've got very
Just at the
little of it.
bottom?
Yeah.
No. No.
I'm going to just Google
You might have
see
been
if
on a
there's-
different continent, maybe, but not over here. No. So you've got to look. You've got to look sideways.
Well, that'd be
anyway,
interesting.
good luck with that one. If you try it, don't put your neck out.
Well, that's tonight, is it?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. I should look out for that.
Very good. In the meantime, you need to turn the lights off for that, so it's good for your energy bills.
Well, of
if you're
course,
looking at the
yes.
stars. Talking of which, the Energy Secretary, Ed Miliband, is reportedly set to back a controversial shake-up of electricity pricing. It's being dubbed the postcode lottery energy system.
Under what they're calling the zonal pricing plan, energy could be split into regions with bills based on supply and demand.
Now, that has the potential, at least, of seeing cheaper bills in wind-rich areas like Scotland, but higher costs for people in the south.
But should our energy bill depend on where you live? Let's get more from our political correspondent, Catherine Forster, who joins us live from Westminster. Catherine, what more can you tell us about this?
Yes, well, I think your view of this might depend on where you live, because if you live in the north where there's plenty of wind power, ultimately you might be paying less for your electricity. The opposite, of course, being true in the south. But I think it's worth saying that we don't know that this is actually going to happen. Ed Miliband has been speaking this morning, and he's saying, look, we haven't made any final decisions. We are looking into this, but we understand that it's very difficult. He says he wouldn't want to do anything that would particularly disadvantage one area over another. He said that what he really wants is to bring down prices in a way that's fair across the board. Of course, the government, before they were elected, did talk about bringing household energy bills down by £300. And at the moment, we're seeing the absolute opposite. We don't hear that figure of £300 much these days, and we've got no idea when or if that's ever going to happen. But the government today is wanting to talk about this $300 million that they've announced to support domestic offshore wind supply change. They believe, or Ed Miliband particularly believes, that there's growth and there are jobs for British workers in the transition to clean power. and he's hosting a huge international energy summit today in London, focused on energy security. About 50 countries and a similar number of global energy firms meeting. So let's see what emerges from that. Also, of course, we've had the news in the last day or two that the government is going to make sure that slave labour is excluded from the supply chain. We know, don't we, that Uyghur Muslims in China, slave labour is being used. The government are committing not to be bringing in solar panels or anything like that from China that have been involved with slave labour.
Thank you very much indeed. Well, we would, I mean, obviously, this is an Ed Miliband proposal. We'd like to talk to Ed Miliband. Of course. And he has done what we call the rounds. So on every other channel, Ed Miliband has been appearing to talk about what he's putting forward on all of this. But not us. He will not come on GB News to talk about it. You can tweet him or whatever and tell him what you think about that. He doesn't want to address you. There are more people watching this channel than other news channels
at this time.
At this time,
yeah, absolutely.
And yet he doesn't want to talk to you. I don't know why.
I do find it astonishing that they are public servants paid for from the public purse. We are a broadcaster, and a reputable broadcaster at that, with a good audience. And, of course, this breakfast show is usually rates as the highest across news channels at this time in the morning.
It actually does, yeah. So
it is, I think, somewhat of an insult to the viewers who want to hear what he has to say for these policies that will affect them directly, you and I.
Meanwhile, we have, though, heard from the Department of Energy Security and Net Zero, an unnamed spokesperson, which isn't quite the same thing, is it? But anyway, they have said, in an unstable world, the only way to guarantee our energy security and protect consumers from future energy price shocks is by moving towards homegrown power. We're considering reforms to Britain's electricity market arrangements, ensuring these focus on protecting bill payers and encouraging investment. We will provide an update in due course.
Right, well, if you just tuned in 8 minutes after 9 o'clock, thousands of mourners have been pouring into St Peter's Basilica to pay their respects to Pope Francis, whose body is now lying in state ahead of his funeral.
Well, the Basilica was meant to close at midnight last night. It actually stayed open until 5 a.m. to accommodate the crowds and long queues of mourners.
GB News' Ellie Costello is still in Rome for us. Good morning, Ellie.
Good morning to you, Stephen and Nana. And yes, as you say, St Peter's Basilica had to extend their opening hours to try and demand of pilgrims and tourists that were flooding in, hoping to pay their last respects to Pope Francis. We actually know in the past 23 hours since St Peter's Basilica was open to the public that almost 50,000 people have made their way through those doors. One of those people being the Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, and we've seen pictures of her bowing her head in prayer, looking quite emotional as she pays her respects to the late pontiff. And the two had a very close working relationship. They were at press conferences together in Italy talking about the falling birth rate in this country, something they were clearly united on, not so united on their thoughts on migration. But the two did have a close friendship, with Giorgia Meloni even visiting him in hospital during that 5-week stay that Pope Francis had in February and March of this year. So very respectful scenes of reverence, as you would expect from Giorgia Meloni. But unfortunately, not everybody has had that same level of respect as they have seen Pope Francis lying in state. We've seen people taking selfies, smiling in photos that they are taking of the Pope in his open casket. And we've also seen videos of people asking people to take photos of them by the open coffin. There is no ban on photography inside St Peter's Basilica, so there have even been priests and nuns taking pictures of the corpse of Pope Francis, you'd imagine for their own personal memories. There is a ban on selfie sticks, and there are security guards in there asking people to put away their selfie sticks. But of course, with the thousands of people that are flooding in, that is very difficult to police, but it's very upsetting for pilgrims and devout Catholics to have spent up to 8 hours queuing to pay their final respects, and they feel as though the moment has been ruined by people taking selfies and going live on TikTok.
OK. Ellie, for now, thanks very much indeed. I can understand people being upset by that. I can understand people taking pictures, as strange as it is to take pictures of a body. I can understand doing that. It's the selfies and the streaming, I think, is. And I don't know why, but I think it's a step too far.
I think the streaming, because it's actually kind of interrupting other people's kind of moment, because you're doing something live, you're talking, you're going to stream something, blah, 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 blah. You know, that's a bit much. But I don't have any objection to people taking selfies and photographs and videoing themselves there. But as soon as you start kind of making it into a performance, where you're then going to stream, I think that's just disrupting the whole atmosphere.
Yeah, it all just strikes me as a little bit odd. But then again, we do have pictures and we do have official video from in there, where we do see the body of the Pope, and we all want to see the body of the Pope. And so why would it necessarily be any different if you're in there on your phone?
Because that's why people have gone there for 8 hours. Listen, I think it's all fine, but the streaming live, like as though you're filming some sort of performance, I think is a bit disrespectful to those around you and, of course, to the Pope, I think.
Yeah, OK. Look, still to come. Scientists say they've discovered a breakthrough remedy for peanut allergies. We'll tell you what that is in a moment.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Now, it's our biggest giveaway today. You could win that motorhome, that very marvellous full-berth motorhome worth more than £67,000 and £5,000 in tax-free cash. Where would you go, Nana, in that?
I would go to Newcastle, to my place of birth. I'd go via the East Coast, which is beautiful. Berwick-upon-Tweed, I'd stop there for a little bit as well, then I'd head up to Scotland, then go around the edge.
You'd be off for weeks.
I'd drive quite quick, but you could always deliver the motorhome like you offered.
Yes, I can deliver the motorhome to you should you win it. If you want to take part,
Carefully,
why
don't
not?
crash it.
I will not crash it, no. Here's how you enter.
Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with sky roof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that wherever this motorhome takes you, it takes you there in style. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yes, good luck indeed.
Very good, yes. Now, scientists are apparently heralding a new era of medicine if you're a sufferer from a peanut allergy.
Now, you'll never guess what the remedy is actually being exposed to peanuts.
Yes, one man says he's cured a life-threatening intolerance by eating 4 of the nuts a day. But it's not as simple.
You've got to be careful.
It's not as simple as that. You're talking micro-dosing to begin with. Let's talk to GP Dr. David Lloyd. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
And we do need to put a lot of caveats on this, don't we, in case anyone with a peanut allergy could be watching and think, well, I'll eat a peanut and maybe this is the way to cure myself, because it's not that simple.
Yes, I'm so pleased you announced that health warning. I was about to do the same thing myself. This comes from an incredibly reputable team of scientists who've already done the work on babies and peanut allergy and found that by smothering young babies and giving them small doses of peanuts, you can prevent peanut allergy. And so this is a logical extension, and by giving very small doses, increasing in amounts to adults with peanut allergies, you can reduce the effect of peanut allergy, but you're never cured. And so it's very important that you don't wander around without your EpiPen if you're still labelled as a peanut sufferer, and you've got to be very careful. And please, this should be done under medical supervision. But so, this is... Go on, yes, go on.
No, I was going to ask, because you said you're never cured. So how much, in a sense, protection do these people have from the peanut allergy? Is it something that says when there's a trace of peanuts in something, or what is it now that they're OK with peanuts? What level of protection did it appear to give? Just to...
I'm afraid I don't have the full answer to that, but I think if you're going along the baby sign, I mean, you can live a normal life and you can eat peanuts. But as I say, that we're not talking about a cure, and so this funny immune system of ours can always break through, because this is one part of this clean hypothesis. I'm sure you know about this, that we're just too clean nowadays, and that we're not coming into contact with what we call old friends early enough in our lives, and so we end up with all these allergies.
Which, I mean, it is a concern, isn't it, that we do when we don't get dirty enough, we wash too often, and all the rest of it. I mean, it's so counterintuitive, isn't it?
Yes. So I think that the suggestions are that we're doing too many cesarean sections, so babies aren't exposed to bacteria very early on in their lives. That we're doing more formula feeding rather than breastfeeding, so you're not getting that link. Doctors are using too many antibiotics, so killing all these bacteria off. And we're just not coming into contact with the countryside and animals, and we're eating too many processed foods, because fiber in our diets also affects the gut in our bacteria, the bacteria in our gut. So it's all part of the sort of modernization of our lives that produces all these allergies. And this is another little piece of information that's really very helpful and potentially very useful.
Now, if people are interested in finding out more about this, where they could potentially get in touch with someone to discuss it, or maybe take part in any sort of trials, do we know if there's anywhere that people can go to find out more about this?
Well, I know the man who does it, so I can say it, but he probably will kill me if he ever sees me. But his name is Dr. Adam Fox. He's an incredibly reputable researcher at King's College, and I'm sure that he's looking to expand his trials and looking for more volunteers. So Google him, but don't pester him personally.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, great, because the more people who get involved in this, the better the results will be, hopefully. Doctor, always good to see you. Thank you very much indeed.
Maybe they can extend it out to other allergies and things like that.
I'm sure there are options for that. There's bound to be. But
isn't it?
when people have deadly allergies to peanuts, this could be a real lifeline.
Yeah, at least to be around somebody who's eaten the peanuts, or that's why I was interested in how much protection, in a sense, it offers to someone who has that allergy.
Well, it means you can get on a plane and not everyone have to have their peanuts removed, which has happened. Have you been to that happen to you?
You did say peanuts, didn't you?
That's as bad as Andrew Pearce, who by chance is happens. Oh, anything.
Well, if Kemi Badenoch can say BALLS in the house, then maybe we can say nuts here, Nana.
I think we should be able to.
We've been using the word gall today.
Are we allowed to say?
I wouldn't repeat.
I don't think we should. I wasn't very impressed with her saying that, to be honest. I didn't like it.
No, it's not nice, is it?
It wasn't nice.
I was all right with it. I thought it was her most effective
You liked it, didn't you?
P&Q she's done, actually.
Thank goodness.
But it's about time.
Yeah. She's playing a character.
I think politicians should be above that.
I agree.
Frankly.
Me too.
Well, there'll be no one left.
Setting an example.
We've got a bit of Mary Whitehouse.
We did have the President of the United States a few weeks ago saying world leaders were kissing his...
Yeah, I know.
Which I didn't approve of.
Well,
but America, they use the shortened word for posterior in a slightly different context. But I was not impressed with Kemi Badenoch saying that yesterday. I thought she let herself down.
Yeah, I don't like it. Anyway, what have you got coming up for us?
We are going to be talking about all sorts of things. Energy. I think you've been doing this here, haven't you, as well? Paying more in the south than you do in the north. Should that be the case?
Should we play God with the weather?
Yeah. Cloud seeding. Finally, the government are admitting that they are modifying the weather. Solar radiation mitigation measures, which have been going on for years in other countries as well, but they haven't wanted to talk about them.
And a British university is at the heart of this experiment.
Is it?
Yeah.
Briefly, what is it then?
Tens of millions of pounds will be spent on trying to reflect the sun's rays in order to stop the planet being warm. It is dangerous.
They don't know what they're doing.
Experimental
This is madness.
science.
We're getting far too clever for ourselves.
And also, should we be playing loud music on transport? I think you've done that as well, haven't you? This morning.
I do not want a law passed. Why do we need a law passed?
Well, it's impossible to police.
And selfies whilst looking at the Pope. We've got a very busy show this morning. We want to hear from everybody at home. First, though, here is your weather, and then it'll be me and Andrew in just a minute.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head through today, it should be largely dry for many, but rather cloudy at times. This cloud thick enough to produce some drizzle, particularly across the southeast. The best of the brightness likely across the northwest. So quite a murky start for many, particularly across the southeast. Some drizzle, some fog at times. This will eventually clear through the morning, but some of that cloud sticking around, particularly across parts of the south. The best of any sunny breaks across western parts of Scotland, northwestern parts of England, and thicker clouds starting to push into western parts of Northern Ireland too, where we'll eventually start to see some rain. But in the sunny spells, feeling warm, highs of around 17 degrees Celsius, but always feeling that little bit chillier around eastern coasts. Then to end the day across Scotland, once again it should be a largely dry and clear end to the day. Some patchy cloud at times, particularly around Aberdeenshire, for example. Plenty of clear skies towards the west, but across Northern Ireland starting to turn quite cloudy and murky, particularly around western coasts where we'll eventually introduce some outbreaks of rain. Elsewhere across much of England and Wales, once again largely dry, though we can't rule out the odd shower, particularly across Wales and parts of Devon and Cornwall. And for many, it should remain largely dry as we head through the overnight period. That's away from Northern Ireland, though. More and more outbreaks of rain moving through here. Could turn quite heavy at times, particularly across southern-facing hilly areas, and quite blustery around exposed coast too. So a very wet start here across Northern Ireland, but elsewhere largely dry. Perhaps some low cloud feeding in once again around eastern coasts. So for Northern Ireland in particular, it's going to be a very wet day. Do take care if you're travelling around. It's likely we'll see poor visibility, some quite disruptive travel conditions potentially. Eventually some more rain starting to move into western parts of Scotland, perhaps later into western parts of Wales and the southwest. But for many, once again, it's going to be largely dry. Quite cloudy at times, but in the sunnier breaks, still feeling warmer, and a lot warmer around eastern coasts as well, but quite cool across Northern Ireland under all the cloud and rain.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front.